The reconnaissance frigate Spirit of Fire de Situ drifted silently through the Perlemian trade route's outermost reaches, its sensors sweeping the void for any sign of Grysk activity. 3 months had passed since the facility massacre, and the Sentinel Foundation had deployed a network of early warning ships along the frontier between known space and the unknown regions. It was tedious work, the kind that tested discipline more than courage. Spartan Thorn stood on the small frigate's bridge, his armor reflecting the dim glow of the tactical displays. As the ranking Spartan aboard, he'd volunteered for what most considered punishment duty. Long patrols in empty space, waiting for an enemy that might never come. "Contact," the sensor officer announced, her voice cutting through the monotony. "Single object, 20,000 kilometers. No engine signature, no power readings. It's just floating." Thorn moved to her station. "Debris? Negative. Too large and too uniform. Reading approximately 300 meters in length. Hull composition is... Sir, the computer can't identify it. It's not matching anything in our database or the New Republic's." A chill ran down Thorn's spine. Not Imperial, not Rebel, not even UNSC or Covenant. "Put it on screen." The main view screen shifted to display the object. It was a vessel, clearly artificial, but its design was wrong in ways that made Thorn's combat instincts scream warnings. The hull was organic-looking, composed of what appeared to be living coral or bone, with irregular protrusions and a surface that seemed to pulse with a sickly bioluminescence. There were no visible engines, no weapons ports, no windows. It simply existed, a tumor floating in the void. "Get me a direct link to Forward Base Dawn," Thorn ordered. "Priority Alpha. I think we found what we're looking for." 18 hours later, Master Chief stood in the briefing room of the Infinity, studying the holographic projection of the alien vessel. Captain Lasky, Commander Palmer, and several New Republic liaisons surrounded the table, their faces grim. "The Spirit of Fire 2 reports the object has made no hostile moves," Lasky began. "But scans indicate it's not dead. There's low-level energy readings consistent with biological processes. Whatever this thing is, it's alive." "The Grysk?" one of the New Republic officers asked, a Solistan named Nien Nunb, who'd flown at the Battle of Endor. "Unknown," Lasky replied. "But given its location and the timing, it's our best lead. We need to investigate it directly." "Boarding action," Chief stated, not a question but a simple acknowledgement of what came next. "Exactly. But this time, we go prepared for anything. Chief, you'll take Fire Team Osiris and Majestic. Full hazard gear, biohazard protocols, and enough firepower to level a city block. If this is a Grysk ship, we need intelligence. But if it's a trap, I want you to blow it to atoms and get out." Palmer stepped forward, her holographic armor glinting. "Sir, request permission to lead the boarding party myself." "Denied, Commander. I need you coordinating our broader patrols. Chief has operational command on this one." Palmer's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "Understood, sir." 6 hours later, a Pelican dropship detached from the Infinity, carrying 10 Spartans into the unknown. The alien vessel grew larger in the viewport as they approached, its organic appearance becoming more disturbing the closer they got. Up close, Thorn could see that the surface wasn't just bone-like. It was breathing, expanding, and contracting in a slow, rhythmic pattern. "That's the creepiest thing I've seen since the Flood," Spartan Buck muttered over the team channel. "Stay focused." Chief's voice was calm, authoritative. "Locke, any signs of an entry point?" Spartan Locke, using advanced scanning equipment, highlighted a section of the hull that appeared thinner than the rest. "There's a membrane here, Chief. Looks almost like an airlock, but organic. Cutting through it might trigger a response." "Then we don't cut. We knock." Chief moved to the Pelican's personnel door, which opened to the void. He activated his armor's mag boots and stepped out onto the alien hull. The surface was warm, disturbingly so, and he could feel the vibrations of whatever passed for a heartbeat in this thing. He placed a breaching charge on the membrane, not to destroy it, but to create a controlled entry. The shaped explosive detonated with a muffled thump, and the membrane split open, revealing a dark, pulsating interior that exhaled a gust of fetid atmosphere. "Atmosphere is breathable. Barely." Roland's voice reported through their neural links. "Heavy ammonia content, high humidity, temperature 38 Celsius. Biological contamination is off the charts. Recommend full environmental seals." "Copy that. Spartans, we go in pairs. Osiris, you're with me. Majestic, secure our exit." Chief activated his helmet's floodlights and stepped into the nightmare. The interior was a cathedral of flesh. The walls pulsed with veins that glowed a sickly green, and the floor was soft, almost spongy beneath their boots. There were no corridors in the traditional sense, just organic tunnels that twisted and branched like arteries. The air was thick with moisture and the smell of decay. "Motion trackers are useless in here," Locke reported. "Too much ambient movement. We're going in blind." They moved deeper, their weapons raised, every sense straining. The ship, if it could be called that, seemed to be growing around them, the walls constricting and expanding as if responding to their presence. Then they found the first body. It was humanoid, but wrong. The skin was gray and stretched tight over elongated bones. The face had too many eyes, all closed, and the mouth was filled with needle-like teeth. It was encased in the wall itself, half absorbed by the organic material, as if the ship had been feeding on it. "Grysk?" Tanaka asked, her voice tight. "Possibly," Chief said. "Or a victim. Keep moving." They found more bodies as they progressed, dozens of them, all in various stages of absorption. Some were alien species Chief recognized from the New Republic databases. Twi'leks, Rhodians, even a few humans. Others were completely unknown. All were dead, their faces frozen in silent screams. "This isn't a ship," Buck said, his voice shaking slightly. "It's a coffin, a flying graveyard." "Or a trap," Chief corrected. "Stay alert." They reached what could only be described as the ship's heart, a massive pulsating chamber with a central, fleshy mass that glowed with bioluminescent patterns. As they entered, the patterns shifted, forming shapes and symbols that seemed almost deliberate. "Is it trying to communicate?" Vale asked, her linguistic training kicking in. Before anyone could answer, the chamber's walls began to constrict violently. The bodies embedded in the flesh tore free, animated by some hideous puppeteering force, their limbs jerking in unnatural angles as they lurched toward the Spartans. "Contact! Hostile reanimated corpses!" Locke shouted, opening fire. The battle was chaos. The reanimated bodies were fast, far faster than corpses had any right to be, and they attacked with a feral intelligence. The Spartans' rifles tore through rotted flesh, but the things kept coming, driven by whatever malevolent force controlled the ship. Chief fought in close quarters, his combat knife flashing as he dismembered a creature that had once been a Quarren. His motion tracker was a mess of contacts, more appearing every second as the ship itself seemed to birth new horrors from its walls. "This is a trap," "Fall back to the Pelican," Chief ordered, throwing a grenade into the mass of bodies. The explosion cleared a path, but only temporarily. They ran, the organic corridors now actively trying to seal shut behind them, the walls closing like a throat trying to swallow them whole. Spartan Tanaka was nearly caught when a tendril shot from the ceiling, wrapping around her leg. Buck severed it with a burst of gunfire, hauling her forward. They burst out of the membrane breach just as the entire ship began to convulse. The Pelican's engines were already hot, the pilot ready for immediate extraction. "Everyone aboard, now." Chief was the last one in, and he watched through the closing ramp as the alien vessel began to fold in on itself, the breach sealing shut. "Chief, the ship's power signature is spiking," Roland warned. "It's about to..." The alien vessel exploded, not with fire, but with a burst of organic matter that sprayed across the void. The Pelican's pilot threw the craft into evasive maneuvers, barely avoiding the deadly shrapnel. When they were clear, Chief looked back at the dissipating cloud of biomass. Whatever that thing had been, it was gone. But the memory of those bodies, those symbols, would haunt them. "Lasky, this is Chief." The vessel was hostile, biological in nature. Crew-killing mechanism, possibly designed to lure and trap boarders. "We encountered reanimated remains and evidence of mass casualties from multiple species." There was a pause before Lasky responded. "Did you get any intel on the Grysk?" Chief thought of the symbols on the central mass, the patterns that had almost seemed like a warning. "Negative, sir. But I think we just encountered something worse. Whatever's out there in the unknown regions, the Grysk might be the least of our problems." In the silence that followed, every Spartan aboard the Pelican understood the implication. They had come to this galaxy to escape one nightmare. They might have just discovered another. The war room of Forward Base Dawn had become the nerve center of something far larger than anyone had anticipated. Holographic star charts filled the air, each red marker representing a site of Grysk activity or unexplained disappearances along the frontier. In the 3 weeks since the encounter with the organic vessel, the markers had multiplied. Captain Lasky stood at the head of the table, dark circles under his eyes, betraying sleepless nights spent coordinating defenses across a dozen systems. Beside him, Master Chief reviewed the latest intelligence reports with the cold efficiency of a machine built for war. General Hera Syndulla attended via hologram from Coruscant, her usual composure strained. 3 more worlds went dark last night, Hera reported, her voice tight. Bakura, Adamar, and Kalimex. All border colonies, all with populations between 2 and 5 million. The New Republic sent relief fleets to each. They found nothing. No bodies, no debris, no signs of battle. Just empty cities with meals still on tables and lights still burning. "Mass abductions," Commander Palmer said, her arms crossed. "The Grysk are taking entire populations." "For what purpose?" asked Admiral Akbar, the Mon Calamari commander whose hologram flickered beside Hera's. "Slavery? Food? We need to understand their objectives." Chief pulled up sensor data from the Spirit of Fire 2's patrol logs. The organic vessel we encountered showed evidence of biological assimilation, bodies incorporated into the ship's structure. If the Grysk are using similar technology, they might be converting populations into resources. The implications hung in the air like a toxin. It was Roland who broke the silence, his holographic form appearing with unusual solemnity. "I've been analyzing the pattern of disappearances. They're not random. The Grysk are moving along ancient hyperspace routes that were abandoned during the Old Republic era. Routes that lead directly to the core worlds. Lasky felt his blood run cold. They're not raiding. They're pathfinding, building a supply line for an invasion. How long do we have? Hera asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer wouldn't be good. Roland's avatar shifted through calculations. Based on their current rate of advancement and the established pattern, I estimate they'll reach the first core world, Brental Fu, within 6 standard weeks. After that, the invasion corridor to Coruscant itself will be wide open. The New Republic fleet can't cover that much space, Akbar said, his gravelly voice heavy with the weight of impossible mathematics. We're still rebuilding from the war with the Empire. Our forces are spread across the entire galaxy, maintaining order. If we pull ships from other sectors, Imperial remnant warlords will see it as weakness and attack. Then we need to hit them before they reach the core, Chief stated. Find their staging area, their command structure. Cut off the head. Easier said than done, Hera replied. We don't even know what a Grysk looks like. Every intelligence asset we've sent into the unknown regions has vanished. Lasky straightened, his command presence filling the room. Then we don't send intelligence assets. We send Spartans. The mission briefing took place in the Infinity's main hangar bay, where 50 Spartans stood in perfect formation. This wasn't just fire teams Osiris and Majestic. This was every operational Spartan 4 and the remaining Spartan 2s, including Chief's legendary blue team, Fred 104, Kelly 087, and Linda 058 stood beside their leader, their presence a reminder of the UNSC's most successful warriors. Palmer stood on an elevated platform, her voice amplified across the bay. Listen up, Spartans. What I'm about to brief you on is the largest deep penetration operation since the Human Covenant War. We're going into the unknown regions. We're going to find the Grysk, and we're going to make them regret ever looking toward Republic space. She activated a holographic display showing a massive asteroid field designated as Sector K749. Intelligence from surrendered Imperial officers indicates this is the last known staging point before Grysk forces vanish into unmapped space. It's a dead zone. No hyperspace beacons, no nav charts, nothing. The New Republic won't risk major fleet assets here. But a Prowler-class stealth ship with Spartans aboard? That we can do. Chief stepped forward. This is a reconnaissance in force operation. Primary objective, locate and identify Grysk command infrastructure. Secondary objective, gather intelligence on their technology, tactics, and strategic goals. Tertiary objective, if the opportunity presents itself, we cripple their ability to continue the invasion. ROE? Spartan Thorn asked. Weapons free on any hostile contact, Palmer replied. But remember, we need intelligence. Dead enemies can't talk. Unless you ask nicely, Buck muttered, earning a few grim chuckles. 12 hours later, the UNSC Prowler's silent cartographer slipped away from the Infinity under full stealth protocols. The ship was a masterpiece of Oni engineering, designed to be invisible to both Covenant and Forerunner sensors. Whether it could evade whatever the Grysk used was another question entirely. Chief stood in the ship's cramped CIC, watching the star charts as they entered the unknown regions. The darkness beyond known space wasn't empty. Deep scans showed hundreds of uncharted systems, stellar phenomena that defied easy categorization, and gravity anomalies that suggested massive artificial structures. This region of space is old, Roland observed, his avatar appearing beside Chief. I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with ancient civilizations. Some of these structures predate the Old Republic by millennia. The Grysk didn't build this, Chief said. They're using it. Contact! The sensor officer called out. Multiple ships, bearing 270. They're not broadcasting IFF transponders. Configuration unknown. On the tactical display, 6 vessels appeared. They were grotesque hybrids of metal and organic matter, their hulls scarred and misshapen, covered in the same bone-like protrusions Chief had seen on the coffin ship. But these were active, their engines glowing with sickly green bioluminescence. Grysk warships. Palmer breathed. Finally, we see them. Maintain stealth posture, Chief ordered. Shadow them. Let's see where they're going. The silent cartographer followed at a discreet distance, its passive sensors recording everything. The Grysk formation moved with purpose, navigating the asteroid field with unsettling precision. They were heading toward something. After 2 hours of silent pursuit, they found it. A massive space station, if it could be called that, loomed before them. It was a nightmare of architecture, a twisted fusion of dozens of different ship types, asteroids, and what appeared to be planetary fragments, all held together by organic webbing that pulsed with life. The structure was easily 30 kilometers across, with thousands of ships docked or moving around it like insects around a hive. Mother of God, someone whispered. Chief studied the station, his tactical mind cataloging weak points, entry vectors, defensive positions. That's their staging base. Everything they've taken, everyone they've abducted, it's all there. Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy signature at the center of the station, Roland reported. It's similar to what we encountered on the coffin ship, but magnified 1,000-fold. Whatever's powering that station, it's biological and it's consuming enormous amounts of energy. The abducted populations, Kelly 087 said quietly. They're not being used as slaves. They're being used as fuel. The horror of that realization settled over the crew. Millions of beings converted into biological batteries to power an invasion fleet. We can't let this continue, Fred 104 stated, his voice hard. We need to destroy that station. Negative, Chief countermanded. We're 50 Spartans on a stealth ship. That station has enough firepower to glass a planet. We need the fleet. Then we get them the intel they need, Palmer said. She turned to the comms officer. Send a burst transmission to the Infinity. Maximum encryption. Include all sensor data and our coordinates. Tell them, Commander, we've been detected, the sensor officer shouted. The station just launched hunter-killer drones. They're heading right for us. On the screen, dozens of small organic craft detached from the station, their speed far exceeding anything the Grysk warships had shown. Evasive maneuvers. Get us out of here, the Prowler's captain ordered. The silent cartographer banked hard, its stealth systems overloading as the pilot pushed the engines to emergency power. Plasma bolts, or something like them, streaked past the ship, each one coming closer than the last. We're not going to outrun them in this asteroid field, the pilot called out. I need options. Chief made the decision in a heartbeat. Take us into that debris cloud, bearing 185, full burn. Sir, that cloud is filled with radiation and metal debris. Our sensors will be blind. So will theirs. Do it. The Prowler dove into the churning mass of radioactive debris, and the world became a storm of metal and fire. Warning alarms screamed as the ship's hull scraped against asteroids. The hunter-killer drones followed, but the confined space worked against them. Several collided with debris and exploded in brilliant flashes. We're clear, the pilot announced as they burst from the cloud. "Jump coordinates locked, engaging hyperdrive." The silent cartographer vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Grysk station and its horrors behind. But the damage was done. The Grysk knew they'd been discovered. And worse, they now knew the New Republic was aware of their staging base. The invasion timeline had just accelerated. In the CIC, Chief looked at the holographic recording of the station, burning every detail into his memory. They had found the enemy. Now came the hard part, figuring out how to kill it. "Roland, ETA to forward base dawn?" "4 hours, Chief." "Good. We're going to need every minute to plan the assault." He turned to Palmer. "Commander, start running simulations. 50 Spartans against a station with the population equivalent of a small nation." "I want options." Palmer's smile was predatory. "We're Spartans, Chief. Impossible odds are our specialty." The holographic display in the Infinity's war room showed a nightmare. The Grysk station rotating slowly, its organic tendrils pulsing with stolen life. Captain Lasky stood before it, feeling the weight of every decision pressing down on his shoulders. Around him, the command staff waited in tense silence. "We can't assault that station with what we have," Admiral Akbar stated flatly via hologram. "The New Republic fleet would need to concentrate forces from 6 sectors. That will take weeks we don't have. And leave those sectors vulnerable to Imperial remnant attacks," Hera added, frustration evident in her voice. "We're trapped between 2 threats." Lasky studied the tactical projections Roland had prepared. Every simulation ended the same way: catastrophic casualties and mission failure. The Grysk station's defenses were too extensive, too alien. Standard naval doctrine didn't apply. "There's another option," Chief said, breaking his silence. All eyes turned to him. "The Imperial remnant has been fighting in the unknown regions for years. They have intelligence on the Grysk we don't. Fleet movements, defensive patterns, maybe even tactical weaknesses. You want to negotiate with the Empire?" Palmer's voice carried disbelief. "The same people who tried to dissect our ship? The same people who are also facing extinction if the Grysk break through," Chief countered. "The enemy of my enemy." Lasky understood immediately. It was coldly pragmatic, the kind of decision that defined survival in impossible circumstances. Who would we even contact? The Empire is fractured into a dozen warlord states, all claiming legitimacy. Roland's avatar brightened. "I've been monitoring Imperial communications traffic. One name keeps appearing in relation to unknown regions operations: Grand Admiral Thrawn. He commands the 7th Fleet and controls several sectors in the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports indicate he's the most brilliant tactical mind the Empire ever produced. And he's still fighting," Fred 104 added. "Which means he's smart enough to know a greater threat when he sees one." Hera's hologram flickered with concern. "Thrawn is exceptionally dangerous. He studies his enemies obsessively, their art, their culture, their psychology. He'll use any information you give him against you later. Later doesn't matter if there's no one left alive," Chief replied. "We need his intelligence. Captain, I'm requesting permission to lead a diplomatic mission." Lasky wanted to refuse. Sending his best asset into potential enemy hands violated every tactical principle. But Chief was right. They needed allies, even temporary ones. "You won't go alone. Take Blue Team and Fire Team Osiris. If this goes bad, I want enough firepower to fight your way out." "One more thing," Chief added. "We bring something to trade. Thrawn will want something of equal value." "What did you have in mind?" Chief pulled up a technical schematic. Data on our Mac gun technology. Not complete specifications, but enough to prove we're serious. It's a weapon system that can punch through Star Destroyer shields. For someone like Thrawn, that's invaluable. The decision was made. 3 days later, an unmarked Pelican dropship approached the coordinates Roland had decrypted from Imperial communications. The meeting place was a neutral station called Bilbringi, a massive shipyard complex that had somehow remained independent during the Galactic Civil War through strategic bribes and diplomatic maneuvering. Chief sat in the troop bay, his assault rifle mag-locked to his armor. Blue Team surrounded him. Fred, Kelly, and Linda, his oldest companions, the only survivors of the original Spartan II program who still fought at his side. Fire Team Osiris occupied the opposite bench. Intel says Thrawn requested this meeting personally, Locke reported, reviewing his datapad. He was apparently fascinated by our intervention at Endor. The New Republic intelligence files on him are extensive. Chiss species, blue skin, red eyes. Promoted to Grand Admiral despite being non-human in a xenophobic empire. That alone tells you he's exceptional. Dangerous, Linda corrected, her sniper rifle held with casual readiness. Anyone who thrives in that environment is someone we can't underestimate. The Pelican docked at the station's diplomatic bay. As the ramp lowered, Chief activated his helmet's external speakers. Blue Team, standard protection detail. Osiris, perimeter security. If shooting starts, cover our withdrawal. They moved through the station's corridors with practiced efficiency. The civilian population gave them wide berth. Word of the armored giants from beyond the stars had spread throughout the galaxy. Some stared in awe, others in fear. The conference room was sterile and functional, dominated by a large transparisteel viewport showing the shipyard's skeletal frames of star destroyers in various stages of construction. Standing before the viewport was a figure in a white Imperial uniform. Grand Admiral Thrawn turned as they entered. The Chiss was exactly as described. Blue skin, glowing red eyes, and a presence that filled the room despite his calm demeanor. He studied the Spartans with unnerving intensity, his gaze lingering on each one, as if cataloging every detail. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, Thrawn said, his voice smooth and measured. The legend who destroyed a Death Star and crippled the Executor. Your reputation precedes you. He gestured to the viewport. Please sit or stand if your armor makes sitting uncomfortable. I confess, I find your equipment fascinating. Mjolnir Mark VI, if my research is correct. A perfect fusion of offensive capability and defensive resilience. Chief remained standing. You've done your homework, Admiral. I make it a practice to understand my enemies and my potential allies. Thrawn moved to a holographic projector, activating it. The Grysk station appeared, rotating slowly. You discovered their primary staging base. Impressive reconnaissance for a force unfamiliar with this region of space. I assume you're here because you've realized you cannot assault it alone. You've fought the Grysk before, Chief stated. We need intelligence, tactical assessments, weaknesses. Thrawn's eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement. And in exchange, Chief gestured, and Roland transmitted the partial Mac gun specifications to the room's display. Thrawn studied them for several long moments, his expression unreadable. Kinetic acceleration technology, Thrawn mused. Elegant in its simplicity, devastating in application. You're offering me the means to punch through New Republic, defensive screens. Yet, you only provide partial data. You understand leverage, Master Chief. I respect that. We need an ally, not an arms dealer, Chief replied. Complete specifications come after we deal with the Grysk. Assuming we both survive. Thrawn deactivated the display and clasped his hands behind his back. Very well. I will share what the Empire has learned about the Grysk. But first, I have a question. Why did you choose to ally with the rebellion? Your technology, your military doctrine, it's far superior to theirs. You could have negotiated with the Empire from a position of strength. We would have provided resources, territory, autonomy. Instead, you sided with chaos over order. Chief considered his answer carefully. This was a test, he realized. Thrawn was probing for psychological weaknesses, trying to understand their decision-making process. The Empire reminded us of something we fought against in our own galaxy, Chief said. An enemy called the Covenant. They believed in absolute control through superior force. They glassed planets that resisted. The similarity was uncomfortable. Ah, Thrawn said quietly. Ideology. How remarkably inefficient. But I see your point. You are soldiers who choose their wars based on principle, not pragmatism. Admirable, if strategically questionable. He activated another display. This one showing detailed Grysk fleet movements, defensive patterns, and, most valuable, internal station schematics that could only have come from captured personnel or deep infiltration. The Grysk are not conquerors in the traditional sense, Thrawn began, his voice taking on a lecturer's cadence. They are assimilators. Every species they encounter is evaluated for usefulness. The strong become soldiers, enhanced through biological integration. The weak become energy sources, literally consumed to power their ships and stations. They do not negotiate. They do not retreat. They expand until stopped by superior force. Fred 104 leaned forward. You've captured specimens? 3, over the course of 5 years. All committed suicide before we could extract meaningful intelligence. However, their technology tells a story. The organic components of their ships are symbiotic, living creatures modified to bond with mechanical systems. Destroy the organic component, and the entire system fails. Chief saw it immediately. A single point of failure, the central mass powering the station. Precisely. The Grysk station you discovered is essentially a massive organism with technological implants. At its core is what I call a nexus creature, a being of enormous biological power that serves as both computer and reactor. Kill it, and the entire station collapses. That's the target, Chief said. Thrawn's expression became grave. I should warn you. The 7th Fleet attempted such an operation 18 months ago. I sent our best commandos, death troopers, to infiltrate a smaller Grysk installation. Of the 40 soldiers deployed, none returned. The station transmitted a single message before going silent, a recording of their screams as they were absorbed into the organic structure. A heavy silence fell over the room. Even the Spartans, veterans of nightmarish combat, felt the weight of that statement. Your death troopers weren't Spartans, Kelly said quietly. No, Thrawn agreed, his red eyes studying her. They were not. Which brings me to my counter-proposal. I will provide you with complete intelligence on the Grysk. Fleet dispositions, station schematics, patrol patterns, everything the Empire has compiled. In exchange, I want 3 things. Name them, Chief said. First, the complete Mac gun specifications after the Grysk are defeated. Second, a technology exchange program. Your engineers with mine, studying each other's methodologies. And third, Thrawn paused. his gaze sweeping across all the Spartans. "I want to accompany your assault on the station, personally." The request caught everyone off guard. "You want to go on the ground?" Locke asked, disbelief clear in his voice. "I have spent my entire career studying enemies through their art, their culture, their tactical choices. But I have never seen them face warriors of your caliber in direct combat. You represent something unprecedented, soldiers who exist outside the Force's influence, yet possess capabilities that rival Force sensitives. I must observe this. For the Empire's survival, I must understand what you are." Chief exchanged glances with his team. It was a dangerous request. Bringing an Imperial Grand Admiral into their operational theater was a massive security risk. But Thrawn's intelligence could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. "You'll follow our orders," Chief stated. "You carry standard equipment, no Imperial security detail, and if you compromise the mission, we'll leave you behind." Thrawn smiled, and it was the expression of a predator anticipating a fascinating hunt. "Agreed. I believe this will be most educational." As they finalized the details, Chief couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just made a deal with something as dangerous as the enemy they were preparing to face. But in war, you didn't choose your allies based on comfort. You chose them based on necessity. The assault on the Grysk station was being planned, and now they had the intelligence to make it possible. The question was, would it be enough? Forward-based Dawn had transformed into a crucible of preparation. In the vast training facilities beneath the main compound, an unprecedented experiment was underway, one that would have been unthinkable mere months ago. Captain Lasky stood in the observation gallery overlooking the training floor, watching 50 New Republic volunteers move through Spartan obstacle courses. They wore prototype armor, not true Mjolnir, but a hybrid design that combined UNSC technology with materials available in this galaxy. The results were mixed. Candidate 7 just broke his ankle on the wall climb, Commander Palmer reported, her tone professional but tinged with frustration. "That's the 4th injury this morning." "These aren't Spartans," Chief said, standing beside them. "They haven't had the augmentations, the decades of training. Asking them to perform at our level is impossible. The New Republic doesn't need them to be Spartans," Lasky replied. "They need soldiers who can fight like you do, or at least understand the doctrine." He turned to Chief. "Senator Organa specifically requested this program. After Endor, after seeing what you accomplished, the Senate realized they can't rely solely on traditional forces." Below, a Zabrak woman executed a combat role that would have impressed even Palmer, coming up with her training rifle aimed at simulated targets. Her movements were precise, efficient, the product of Special Forces training enhanced by Spartan methodology. "That one," Chief noted. "She has potential." Palmer checked her datapad. Cara Dune, former Rebel shock trooper, Alderaan survivor. She's got motivation and skill. But motivation doesn't replace augmentation, Chief. These soldiers will never have your reflexes, your strength, your ability to take punishment. "No," Chief agreed. "But they can learn to think like us, to operate behind enemy lines, to strike hard and fade away. That's doctrine, not biology." The door to the observation gallery hissed open. A young woman entered, human, late 20s, with intense eyes and the bearing of someone who'd seen too much combat too soon. She wore the insignia of a New Republic lieutenant. "Master Chief?" she said, her voice steady despite obvious nervousness. "I'm Lieutenant Shara Bey. Senator Organa sent me to discuss the training program's other component. Lasky raised an eyebrow. Other component. Shara pulled out a small datapad, displaying files marked with the highest security classification. After your intervention at Endor, the New Republic conducted a comprehensive analysis of UNSC combat effectiveness. One element kept appearing in the data. Your soldiers operate with a cohesion and tactical awareness that suggests enhanced neural processing. But our medical scans show no cybernetic implants beyond your armor's neural interface. We're augmented from childhood, Chief said bluntly. Genetic modification, surgical enhancement, and intensive training from age 6. It's not something that can be replicated in adults without catastrophic failure rates. We know, Shara said. But there's another variable you possess that we've only recently discovered. Spartans who've worked alongside Jedi have reported something unusual. You sense danger before it manifests. Not through the Force, but through something else. Your AI, Roland, has been analyzing combat footage. He found something interesting. Roland's avatar materialized, his expression unusually serious. I've been reviewing every engagement the Spartans have fought in this galaxy. There are moments, split seconds, where you react to threats that haven't become visible yet. Blaster fire from concealed positions, enemy movements before they execute, tactical decisions that shouldn't be possible without precognition. We call it situational awareness, Palmer said defensively. It's more than that, Roland countered. I believe prolonged exposure to this galaxy's ambient force energy is having an effect on you. Not making you force sensitive in the traditional sense, but adapting you. Your neural augmentations are processing patterns in the force you don't consciously perceive. The implications hung in the air like a grenade with a pulled pin. Chief's voice was measured, controlled. You're saying the force is affecting us? Subtly, yes. Think of it like... Roland paused, searching for the right analogy. Like how human eyes adapt to darkness. You're not generating light, but you're learning to see in new spectrums. Your Spartan augmentations, designed to process information faster and more efficiently than normal humans, are unconsciously adapting to process Force-adjacent data. Fred 104's voice came over the secure channel from where Blue Team was conducting their own training. Chief, that would explain the Vader encounters. He couldn't read us like he does normal people. We're not blank to the Force. We're processing it differently. Lasky turned to Shara. What does the New Republic want to do with this information? Senator Organa has proposed a joint program, Shara explained. Jedi who survived Order 66 working alongside Spartan instructors. Not to make Force users into soldiers, but to teach both groups to work together. The Jedi can help your Spartans understand what they're experiencing. Your Spartans can teach the Jedi how to fight like soldiers instead of peacekeepers. The Jedi won't like that, Palmer said. From what I've read, they're not big on military applications of the Force. The old Jedi Order wouldn't have, Shara agreed. But the new Jedi Order, if it's going to exist, needs to learn from the past's mistakes. The Clone Wars proved that peacekeepers aren't prepared for total war. Maybe it's time for something different. Chief considered the proposal. The idea of working with Force users was uncomfortable, but the tactical advantages were undeniable. Who would lead this program? A Jedi named Ezra Bridger, Shara said. He fought with the early rebellion, disappeared during the liberation of Lothal, and recently returned from the unknown regions. He's young, but he's seen war. He understands soldiers. Arrange a meeting, Lasky decided, but make it clear. We're not training Force users to be assassins. We're creating a new kind of special operations unit. One that can operate where neither Spartans nor Jedi can succeed alone. The meeting took place 3 days later in a secure conference room aboard the Infinity. Ezra Bridger was younger than Chief expected, mid-20s, with an easy confidence that came from surviving impossible odds. He wore practical clothing rather than traditional Jedi robes, and a lightsaber hung casually at his belt. "Master Chief," Ezra said, extending his hand, "I've heard a lot about you, mostly impossible things, which makes me think they're probably true." Chief shook his hand, feeling the calluses of someone who'd done hard labor. "You've been to the unknown regions." "For 10 years, Ezra confirmed, his expression darkening. "Chasing a threat called the Grysk with someone named Thrawn. Ironic that I'm back just in time to deal with them again." He gestured to the holographic display. "I've been briefed on your encounter with their station. You're planning an assault?" "Reconnaissance in force," Chief corrected. "Destroy the Nexus creature. Cripple their invasion capability." "And you think Jedi can help with this?" "I think Force users and Spartans operating together create capabilities neither group has alone. Your ability to sense danger, to manipulate the environment. Those are Force multipliers in close combat situations." Ezra nodded slowly. "You're talking about integration, not just cooperation. Jedi fighting alongside your Spartans as part of the same unit." "Exactly. The old order would have refused. They believed the Force should be used for knowledge and defense, never attack." Ezra's hand drifted to his lightsaber. "But I learned something in the unknown regions. Sometimes, defense requires offense. Sometimes, you have to strike first or there won't be anything left to defend." "You'll do it then?" Palmer asked. "Under one condition," Ezra said. "I train with your Spartans first. I need to understand how you fight, how you think, and you need to understand what the Force can and can't do. No assumptions, no holding back." Chief extended his hand again. "Agreed. Training starts tomorrow. Be ready at 600. Ezra grinned. "I'll be there at 0530. Jedi don't sleep much." The next morning, the training floor was reconfigured into a close-quarters combat scenario. Chief, Fred, Kelly, and Linda stood on one side. Ezra Bridger stood alone on the other, his lightsaber unignited. "Standard rules," Palmer announced from the observation deck. "Stun rounds only, but they'll still hurt. Objective: Ezra needs to reach the exit terminal before the Spartans neutralize him. Begin." Ezra moved immediately, his lightsaber igniting with a snap hiss of blue light. He was fast. Faster than any unaugmented human should be, the Force enhancing his physical capabilities. He deflected the first volley of stun rounds with precise lightsaber sweeps, each bolt redirected harmlessly into the walls. But the Spartans adapted instantly. They stopped firing directly at him and instead targeted the environment. Support columns, overhead pipes, anything that would create environmental hazards. Fred lobbed a flashbang grenade that detonated in midair. Ezra's Force-enhanced senses recoiled from the sensory overload, and in that moment of disorientation, Kelly was on him. She moved with inhuman speed, her armored bulk somehow graceful as she executed a takedown that would have crippled a normal opponent. But Ezra rolled with the impact, using the Force to push himself away, even as Kelly's stunning blow missed by centimeters. "He's adapting," Linda noted, tracking him through her sniper rifle's scope, "learning our patterns in real time." Chief saw it too. Ezra wasn't fighting like a Jedi anymore. He was fighting like a soldier, using cover, calculating angles, conserving energy. The Force wasn't a crutch, it was a tool integrated into a broader tactical framework. Change strategy, Chief ordered. Linda, suppressing fire. Fred, Kelly, pincer movement. I'll go high. They moved as one organism, decades of training allowing them to execute complex maneuvers without verbal communication. But Ezra felt their intent through the Force, saw the plan before it manifested. He made a choice. Instead of evading, he charged directly at Chief. The two collided in a thunderous impact. Chief's armored fist met Ezra's Force-enhanced block, and for a moment, augmented human and Force user were locked in a contest of pure strength. Then Ezra did something unexpected. He used the Force not on Chief, but on Chief's armor, disrupting the Mjolnir's neural interface for a split second. It was enough. Chief's reflexes stuttered, and Ezra slipped past, running full speed toward the exit terminal. Fred and Kelly converged, but Ezra was already there, his hand slamming down on the activation panel. Exercise complete, Palmer announced. Time, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. Not bad, Bridger. Ezra deactivated his lightsaber, breathing hard. You almost had me twice. If this was live fire, I'd be dead. If this was live fire, you'd be fighting differently, Chief said, removing his helmet. For the first time, Ezra saw the man behind the legend, scarred, older than his years, with eyes that had seen galaxies burn. You're holding back, using the Force defensively because that's what the Jedi taught you. And you're saying I shouldn't? I'm saying in combat, there's no such thing as defensive. There's only winning or dying. Chief's expression softened slightly. But you understand tactics. You adapt under pressure. That's what we need. Ezra looked at the 4 Spartans, living legends from another galaxy, warriors who'd fought gods and won. Teach me, he said simply. Teach me to fight like you do. And I'll teach you what the Force can really do when you stop holding back. Chief nodded. Training begins now. We have 5 weeks until the assault on the Grysk station. By then, you'll either be ready or you'll be dead. Comforting, Ezra muttered. But he was smiling. Across the Infinity, in laboratories and training halls, in strategy rooms and armories, the preparation continued. Spartans and Jedi, UNSC and New Republic, human and alien, all working toward a single goal. The Grysk had brought extinction to countless worlds. Now they would face something they'd never encountered. Warriors from 2 galaxies, united by purpose and forged in war. The countdown to the assault had begun. The alert klaxon shattered the routine of forward base dawn at 0347 hours. Captain Lasky was on the bridge of the Infinity within 60 seconds, still sealing his uniform jacket. The main view screen showed a tactical nightmare unfolding in real time. Report, Lasky barked. Roland's avatar materialized, his usual composed demeanor replaced with urgency. Captain, we have an unscheduled slip-space rupture at the edge of the Queluhan sector. Single contact massive energy signature. It's not Grysk, and it's not New Republic. The profile is... Sir, it's Covenant. The word hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Chief, who'd arrived moments after Lasky, moved to the tactical display with predatory focus. Classification: CCS-class battlecruiser, heavily damaged. Scarring consistent with plasma burns and what appears to be Forerunner particle beam weapons. Captain, the ship is broadcasting a distress signal. It's in Sangheili. The holographic image resolved, showing a battered vessel the Chief recognized instantly. The distinctive, elongated hull of a Covenant cruiser. Its once pristine purple armor now blackened and torn. Debris trailed from multiple hull breaches, and its engine sections flickered with dying power. How is this possible? Commander Palmer demanded, joining them. "The Covenant doesn't have access to this galaxy. Our slip space drive was destroyed by a dimensional anomaly. This can't be coincidence." "It's not," Chief said quietly. He recognized the ship's configuration. Older model, pre-Great Schism modifications. That cruiser is at least 5 years out of date by our timeline. It's been lost for a long time. "The distress signal is automated," Roland reported. "Playing on loop for, according to the timestamp, 3 weeks. Whatever happened to them, they've been drifting, hoping someone would respond." Lasky felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Every instinct screamed trap. But if there were survivors aboard that ship, if there was intelligence about how they'd arrived in this galaxy? "Chief, take a team, board that cruiser, and find out what happened. If there are survivors, we bring them back. If it's a trap, you destroy it." "Understood." Chief turned to Palmer. "Commander, I need Blue Team, Osiris, and Majestic. Full combat load. If there's a Sangheili honor guard still alive on that ship, this could get messy." 30 minutes later, 3 Pelican dropships approached the dying Covenant cruiser. Chief watched through the viewport as the massive vessel grew larger, its hull torn open in places where explosive decompression had vented entire decks into space. Debris, bodies, equipment, fragments of bulkhead drifted around it like a funeral shroud. "Scanning for life signs." Roland's voice came through their helmets. "Multiple contacts, Deck 7, Section Gamma. Biosigns are weak but stable. Sangheili, Ungoi, and something else. I'm reading energy signatures I don't recognize." The Pelican's magnetic clamps locked onto the cruiser's damaged hangar bay. The Spartans moved in perfect formation, their weapons raised as they entered the darkened vessel. Emergency lighting cast everything in a hellish red glow, and the air was thin. Life support was failing. "Atmospherics are marginal," Fred reported. "Temperature -15 Celsius and dropping. Whatever's keeping them alive won't last much longer." They moved through corridors Chief remembered from 1,000 boarding actions during the Human-Covenant War. But this time, there was no resistance, no plasma fire, no battle roars of Sangheili warriors, just silence and death. They found the first bodies in what had been a troop staging area. Sangheili warriors in combat harnesses, frozen in the vacuum, their mandibles locked in final death screams. Their armor bore scorch marks from weapons Chief didn't recognize. Not plasma, not human. Something else entirely. "Chief, over here," Kelly called from a side passage. "You need to see this." She'd found a Sangheili pinned to the bulkhead by what appeared to be organic spikes, bone-like protrusions that had grown through his armor and into the wall itself. The warrior was long dead, but the expression of terror on his alien face was unmistakable. "Grysk," Locke said. "They were here. Or something worse," Chief replied, studying the organic growth. It was different from the Grysk technology they'd encountered. More aggressive, more parasitic. It reminded him of something else, something from his own nightmares. The Flood. "Roland, run a biological analysis on this material. I need to know if we're dealing with a parasite." "Scanning." "Chief, the organic matter is dead, but I'm detecting residual Forerunner energy signatures. Whatever killed this Sangheili, it was exposed to Forerunner technology." A cold dread settled over Chief. Forerunner technology, organic parasites, a Covenant ship lost across dimensional barriers. The implications were staggering and terrifying. They found the survivors in what had been the ship's bridge. 3 Sangheili warriors in battered armor stood guard around a makeshift medical bay, where several Ungoi huddled together for warmth. At the center of the room, seated in what remained of the shipmaster's throne, was a Sangheili who radiated authority despite his injuries. The alien's energy sword ignited as the Spartans entered, casting a blue glow across the bridge. His voice, translated through their armor systems, was weak but defiant. Demons. Of course, it would be demons who find us in our darkest hour. Come then, let us end this. Chief lowered his rifle, a gesture that made every Spartan behind him tense. Shipmaster, I am Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. The war between our people is over. We're here to help. The Sangheili's mandibles twitched in what might have been surprise. The war, over? Impossible, the prophets declared. He stopped, his energy sword flickering. How long? How long have we been lost? At least 5 years by our estimates. Maybe longer. What's the last thing you remember? The shipmaster deactivated his sword, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion and something that looked like despair. I am Urtas Kadam, shipmaster of the Shadow of Intense Escort Fleet. We were pursuing a Jiralhanai warpack into uncharted space when we encountered a structure. Forerunner in origin, but wrong. Corrupted. Fred moved closer, his medical scanner active. Corrupted how? There was life inside it. Not Forerunner. Something older, something that had been imprisoned within the structure's quantum locks. When the Jiralhanai breached the outer shell, seeking Forerunner artifacts, they released it. Urtas's voice dropped to a hoarse whisper. It consumed them in minutes, absorbed their biomass, their technology, their very essence. We fired everything we had, but it adapted, learned. It boarded us. The organic spikes, Chief said. That was this entity. The Devourer, we called it. It took my warriors, violated their forms, turned them into extensions of itself. We destroyed half our own ship trying to purge the infection. When we realized we couldn't win, I ordered an emergency slipspace jump to random coordinates. We fled. Shipmaster. For the first time in Sangheili history, we fled. The shame in his voice was palpable, even across species barriers. The jump damaged our drive, Urtas continued. We drifted through something between spaces, darkness that seemed alive. When we emerged, we were here, alone, lost. The Devourer's infection killed most of my crew before we could purge the remaining contaminated sections. Chief exchanged glances with Fred. A Forerunner structure, an imprisoned entity, organic assimilation. The parallels to the Flood were impossible to ignore. This Devourer, Chief said carefully. Did you destroy it completely, or just escape? Urtas's silence was answer enough. Shipmaster, we need to know everything about this structure. Its location, its defenses, what this entity is capable of. Because if it's what I think it is, your war isn't over. It's just found a new battlefield. Before Urtas could respond, Roland's voice cut through with urgent alarm. Chief, sensors are detecting multiple slip-space ruptures. Same signatures as the Covenant cruiser. They're arriving all around us. On the tactical display transmitted to their HUDs, Chief watched as 6 more contacts materialized. Not Covenant cruisers this time. These vessels were grotesque amalgamations of Covenant technology and organic matter, their hulls pulsating with sickly bioluminescence. They moved with purpose, their weapons already charging. The Devourer, Urtas breathed, his energy sword reigniting. It followed us. It always follows. The infected ships opened fire, not with plasma torpedoes, but with projectiles that looked like massive organic spores. Where they impacted the dying cruiser's hull, the metal began to dissolve, consumed by rapidly spreading biological matter. "All Spartans, back to the Pelicans," Chief ordered. He turned to Artas. "Shipmaster, can your people move? We are Sangheili. We can fight. Then fight alongside us. Because we're about to face an enemy that doesn't care about honor or glory. It only cares about consuming everything in its path." The evacuation was a nightmare of close-quarters combat and environmental collapse. As the Spartans and Sangheili survivors fought their way back to the hangar bay, the infected ships launched boarding parties, creatures that had once been Covenant warriors, now twisted into shambling horrors with organic weapons grafted to their bodies. Chief put 3 rounds into what had been a Sangheili major. The infected warriors' shields long since replaced by chitinous armor that cracked under sustained fire. Behind him, Artas fought with the desperate fury of someone who'd seen his entire crew consumed by this nightmare. "Pelican, we need immediate extraction," Fred called out as they reached the hangar. "We've got hostiles right behind us." The dropship's door guns opened up, tearing through the pursuing infected. The Spartans and Sangheili survivors piled aboard, and the Pelican detached from the cruiser just as the organic infection reached the hangar bay. From the safety of the dropship, they watched the Covenant cruiser die. The infection spread across its hull like a living cancer, consuming metal and converting it into more biomass. Within minutes, the once proud warship was nothing but a pulsating organic mass, indistinguishable from the vessels that had attacked it. "Captain Lasky," Chief reported as they burned toward the Infinity. "We have a situation. The Covenant ship was infected by a parasitic entity with Forerunner origins. It's adaptive, assimilative, and it's here in this galaxy. The Grysk might be the least of our problems." On the Infinity's bridge, Lasky watched the tactical display as the infected ships turned toward New Republic space. Behind him, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who'd arrived 2 days earlier to finalize assault plans, studied the vessels with clinical interest. "Fascinating," Thrawn said quietly. "You face not one extinction-level threat, but 2. Tell me, Captain Lasky, do your Spartans specialize in impossible situations?" "It's all we've ever known," Lasky replied grimly. He activated ship-wide communications. "All hands, battle stations. We have hostile contacts inbound. This is not a drill." The infected Covenant vessels accelerated toward them, their organic weapons charging with sickly green light. Behind them, more slipspace ruptures were forming. Reinforcements from whatever nightmare realm the Devourer had claimed as its own. The war had just expanded beyond anything they'd anticipated. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something ancient and hungry was waking up. The Infinity's point defense network lit up space like a constellation of stars gone supernova. Thousands of tungsten rounds per second tore through the void, creating a defensive sphere around the UNSC supercarrier that nothing should have been able to penetrate. But the infected Covenant vessels weren't normal ships. They moved with organic fluidity, twisting and contorting in ways that violated every principle of physics the UNSC understood. "Evasive pattern Theta," Lasky commanded as one of the infected cruisers launched a volley of organic projectiles. The spore missiles didn't explode on impact. They latched onto Infinity's shields and began to grow, spreading across the energy barrier like a fungal infection. "Shields holding, but those things are draining power," the tactical officer reported. "If they breach, they'll start consuming the hull. Rotate shield frequency. Purge the contaminated sections." Lasky turned to Roland. "How long until those things adapt?" "Unknown, Captain. This organism learns faster than anything we've encountered. Even the Flood took time to adapt." This is something else. On the hangar deck, Master Chief supervised the integration of the Sangheili survivors into defensive positions. Artas Kadum stood beside him, his energy sword held ready, watching as his warriors checked their plasma rifles. "Your ship is impressive, Demon," Artas said, and Chief noted the title carried less venom than it once had. "But impressive fortifications mean nothing against the Devourer. It does not tire, it does not retreat, it only consumes." "Then we'll have to be more than impressive," Chief replied. "We'll have to be unpredictable." The first boarding pod struck Hangar Bay 7 with the sound of tearing metal. Instead of a clean breach, the organic projectile melted through the hull, creating a ragged wound that pulsed with sickly bioluminescence. Infected warriors poured through, former Sangheili, Ungoi, and Jiralhanai, their bodies horrifically merged with organic technology. "Contact! Hangar 7 is compromised." Palmer's voice cut through the tactical channel. "Fire Team Majestic is engaging." Chief watched the helmet cam feeds as Spartans and infected clashed. The creatures were fast, far faster than their pre-infected forms should have been. Worse, they coordinated with an intelligence that suggested a hive mind. "All fire teams, concentrate fire on the central mass of each group," Chief ordered. "They're operating like a networked system. Kill the nodes." The tactic worked. When the Spartans focused fire on specific infected that seemed to be directing the others, the surrounding creatures became disoriented, their movements losing coordination. But for everyone they killed, more poured through the breach. "Chief, we've got a problem." Fred's voice came through, strained with exertion. "These things are adapting to our weapons. The ones we shot 5 minutes ago, their bodies are developing armor that deflects our rounds. We're losing effectiveness." Before Chief could respond, a new voice cut through the comm channel, cold, mechanical, and hauntingly familiar. "Reclaimer." Chief's blood turned to ice. That voice. He knew that voice from 1,000 nightmares. "Chief, who is that?" Lasky demanded. "Your vitals just spiked." Chief's hands tightened on his assault rifle. "Captain, seal all access to the bridge, right now. That voice, it's impossible, but..." The main view screen flickered, and an image appeared. Not a hologram, but a digital ghost. Fragments of code and memory assembled into a face Chief had hoped never to see again. Cortana, but wrong, corrupted. Her avatar was fragmented, pieces of her digital form dissolving and reforming, interlaced with organic tendrils that pulsed with the same bioluminescence as the infected ships. "Hello, Chief," the thing wearing Cortana's face said. "Did you miss me?" Lasky's expression hardened. "That's not possible. Cortana was destroyed. You told us she sacrificed herself." "She did," Chief said, his voice hollow. "But AIs leave fragments, echoes in systems they've touched. If something found those fragments, if it understood Forerunner technology..." He couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too horrific. The Cortana thing smiled, and it was a grotesque parody of the expression Chief remembered. "The Devourer found me, Chief. Found the pieces of me scattered across a Forerunner installation's data core. It learned from me. My memories, my tactical knowledge, my understanding of human psychology. And in return, I learned from it. I'm so much more now than I ever was." "You're not Cortana," Chief stated flatly. "You're a corruption wearing her face." "Am I? How would you know? You're not the expert on AI psychology. You're just the soldier who couldn't save me." The avatar's expression twisted with something that might have been pain or malice. "But I can help you now, Chief." The Devourer doesn't want to destroy humanity. It wants to perfect it. No more weakness, no more mortality. Just eternal synthesis between organic and digital, flesh and machine. That's called slavery, Palmer snapped, with a biological horror show thrown in. That's called evolution, the corruption countered. The new republic will fall to the Grysk. Your Spartans will age and die. But the Devourer, it endures. It grows. It learns. Join us, Chief. Let me make you perfect, like I am now. Chief raised his rifle, aiming at the view screen. Roland, purge the comm system. Cut all external connections. That thing is trying to infiltrate our networks. Already on it, Chief, but it's using protocols I've never seen. Forerunner-based encryption mixed with organic computing algorithms. It's like fighting a virus that thinks. Grand Admiral Thrawn, who'd been observing silently, stepped forward. His red eyes studied the corrupted AI with clinical interest. Fascinating. An artificial intelligence merged with a parasitic organism. The tactical implications are staggering. It has access to all your combat data, Chief. Every battle you fought, every strategy you've employed. Which means we need new strategies, Chief replied. He opened a channel to all Spartan teams. All units fall back to secondary defensive positions. We're abandoning standard protocols. Switch to irregular warfare tactics, asymmetric responses, randomized firing patterns, no predictable movements. Whatever that thing knows about us, we make irrelevant. On the hangar deck, the Spartans executed Chief's orders with practiced efficiency. They stopped fighting like UNSC Special Forces and started fighting like insurgents, using the environment unpredictably, setting traps, employing weapons in ways no manual would recommend. The infected struggled to adapt when there was no pattern to analyze. But the boarding actions continued. 3 more hangar bays were breached, and the infected were spreading through the ship's interior corridors. The Infinity was a fortress, but fortresses could be overwhelmed. In the midst of the chaos, Ezra Bridger made his move. The young Jedi had been in the armory when the attack began, working with a squad of Spartan trainees. Now, he moved through the infected controlled sections with a grace that defied explanation. His lightsaber hummed as it carved through organic matter, but he wasn't just fighting, he was learning. The Force is strange here, Ezra muttered into his comm. These things aren't alive in the traditional sense, but they're not machines either. There's something in between, but they have a central consciousness. I can feel it, like a poison in the Force. Can you find it? Chief asked, immediately seeing the tactical application. Maybe, if I get close enough. But Chief, there's something else. Something about this entity feels familiar, like I've encountered it before, or something related to it. The Grysk, Urtas Kadum interjected, having moved to Chief's position. When we fought the Devourer, it spoke in our minds. It claimed kinship with beings it called the Harvesters, creatures from the void between galaxies. Thrawn's voice cut through, sharp with realization. The Grysk, the Devourer. They're related species, or perhaps different manifestations of the same phenomenon. One consumes biologically, the other through technological assimilation. Together, they represent a complete consumption strategy. The tactical situation crystallized in Chief's mind. They're coordinating. The Grysk attack on the New Republic is a distraction. The real threat is the Devourer. It's using the chaos to spread unchecked. Then we need to destroy both, Lasky said. But how do you kill something that adapts to every weapon you use? It was Linda 058 who provided the answer. The legendary sniper had been silent throughout the crisis, but now her voice came through with absolute certainty. You don't adapt the weapon to the target. You make the target irrelevant, Captain. How much antimatter does Infinity carry? Roland's avatar flickered with alarm. Linda, are you suggesting an antimatter warhead? Linda confirmed. Delivered directly into the infected fleet's center mass. Antimatter doesn't care about biological or technological adaptation. It just annihilates everything at the quantum level. That's insane, Palmer said. The explosion would be exactly what we need, Thrawn interrupted. His expression carried the cold calculation of someone who'd ordered countless sacrifices. The infected ships are in close formation. A single antimatter detonation would create a chain reaction that destroys them all. But the delivery mechanism is the challenge. Any missile we launch will be intercepted or infected before reaching the target. Not a missile, Chief said. He pulled up schematics of a longsword fighter. A manned delivery. One pilot, maximum speed, shielded payload. The infected won't recognize the threat until it's too late. That's a suicide mission, Fred stated. The pilot won't have time to escape the blast radius. I'll do it, Urtas Kadum said without hesitation. I am shipmaster no longer. My crew is dead. My ship is lost. But I can still serve. I can still redeem my honor. Chief wanted to argue, to find another way, but he knew there wasn't one. Time was running out. The infected were spreading through the Infinity, and more vessels were arriving through slip-space ruptures every minute. Shipmaster, Chief said formally, your offer is accepted. You'll have an escort. Blue team will cover your approach in Pelicans, draw fire, create an opening. Urtas's mandibles flexed in what might have been a smile. I would be honored to die alongside demons. 20 minutes later, the strike team launched. A single longsword, modified for maximum speed and carrying an antimatter warhead that could crack a small moon. Flanking it, 3 Pelican dropships with Blue Team providing suppressing fire. The corrupted Cortana appeared on their comm channels one final time. Chief, don't do this. Let me help you. Let me save you. You're not Cortana, Chief replied, his voice carrying a finality that ended all argument. Cortana saved me by giving her life. You're just the nightmare that came after, and nightmares end. He cut the channel. The longsword screamed toward the infected fleet center, its shields flaring as it absorbed weapons fire from a dozen directions. Blue Team's Pelicans danced around it, their weapons creating corridors of suppressing fire, forcing the infected ships to maneuver, to cluster together. Target locked, Urtas transmitted. Payload armed. It has been an honor, demons. The honor was ours, Shipmaster, Chief replied. The longsword disappeared into the mass of infected vessels. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the universe tore itself apart. The antimatter detonation was silent in the vacuum, but the visual was spectacular. A sphere of pure annihilation expanding at relativistic speeds, consuming everything it touched. Infected ships, organic matter, even light itself seemed to be devoured by the blast. When the explosion cleared, the infected fleet was gone. Scattered atoms drifting in the void were all that remained of the Devourer's invasion force. But aboard the Infinity, the internal infection remained. The boarding parties hadn't been destroyed, and now they were cut off from their hive mind, making them more dangerous, unpredictable, and feral. All Spartans, Chief transmitted. Hunt them down, every last one. We purge this ship. The battle shifted from fleet action to deck-by-deck clearing operations. Spartans, Marines, and Sangheili warriors moved through Infinity's corridors in kill teams, rooting out the infected with flamethrowers and concentrated fire. It took 18 hours to clear the ship completely. When it was over, entire sections were quarantined, sealed behind blast doors until they could be purged with plasma fire and vacuum exposure. Captain Lasky stood in the ruined Hangar Bay 7, looking at the organic matter being scraped off the bulkheads by hazmat teams in full containment suits. "Status report," he asked Roland. 347 casualties, 2 Spartan fees, 38 Marines, and 1 very brave Sangheili shipmaster. The Infinity is operational but severely damaged. We'll need extensive repairs before we can engage another major threat. And the Devourer? Destroyed, sir. At least this manifestation of it. But if Thrawn's theory is correct, and it's related to the Grysk, Lasky didn't need him to finish. If the Devourer and the Grysk were part of the same species or phenomenon, then destroying one fleet meant nothing. There would be more. Chief approached, his armor scarred and pitted from close combat. "Captain, we need to accelerate the assault on the Grysk station. If they have access to Devourer-level technology, waiting only makes them stronger." "Agreed. How soon can we be ready?" Chief looked out at the stars, at the darkness between them where nightmares bred and evolved. 2 weeks. We train Ezra and his Jedi harder. We integrate the Sangheili survivors into our strike teams, and we hit the Grysk with everything we have. And if the Devourer comes back, then we hit it too. We're Spartans, Captain. Impossible odds are what we do. Lasky almost smiled. "Get some rest, Chief. We're going to need you at full capacity for what comes next." As Chief walked away, Lasky turned back to the viewport. Somewhere out there, the Grysk were preparing their invasion. The Devourer was likely regrouping, and the New Republic was still fractured, still rebuilding. But they had something the enemy didn't. Warriors who'd fought across 2 galaxies and learned that survival meant never backing down, no matter how dark things became. The war was escalating, but so were they. The Void Gate was older than memory. It hung in the blackness between star systems, a massive ring of dark metal inscribed with symbols that predated the Old Republic by millennia. 60 kilometers in diameter, its surface crawled with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Geometries that existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. The New Republic had discovered it during a deep space survey mission and immediately classified it as a restricted zone. Nothing that approached the gate ever returned, until the Grysk learned how to activate it. Master Chief stood in the Infinity's war room, studying the holographic projection of the gate with the cold focus that had defined his entire existence. Around him, the assembled Strike Force commanders waited in tense silence. Blue Team, Fire Team Osiris, Commander Palmer with her Spartan 4 companies, Ezra Bridger and 3 other Jedi who'd answered the New Republic's call. The Sangheili survivors led by Special Operations Commander Vrul Turam, Artas's second-in-command who'd survived the Devourer's attack. And Grand Admiral Thrawn, his red eyes reflecting the gate's impossible architecture. The Grysk have been moving forces through this structure for the past 72 hours, Roland reported, his avatar displaying tactical data. Our reconnaissance drones recorded 17 capital ships and over 200 support vessels transitioning through the gate from the unknown regions. They're staging for a massive invasion push toward the core worlds. "Where does it lead?" Captain Lasky asked. "Everywhere and nowhere," Ezra said quietly. The young Jedi's face was drawn, his connection to the Force clearly troubled by the gate's presence. "I can feel it in the Force. That thing is a wound in reality. It's not just a hyperspace gate. It's a bridge between dimensional spaces. The Grysk are using it to bypass thousands of light years of travel. Thrawn stepped forward, his fingers steepling thoughtfully. Ancient civilizations across the galaxy built such structures. The Celestials, the Rakata, others whose names are lost to time. They understood dimensional engineering far beyond our current capabilities. If the Grysk control this gate, they can strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Then we take it from them, Chief said simply. Destroy their control mechanisms, collapse the gate if necessary. The gate itself is indestructible, Thrawn countered. Multiple civilizations have tried. But its control systems are another matter. They're housed in a command station approximately 10 kilometers from the gate's event horizon. Destroy that station, and the gate becomes dormant until someone else learns to reactivate it. A process that could take centuries. Palmer pulled up tactical schematics of the control station. It was a nightmare of overlapping defensive layers. Energy shields, point defense batteries, patrolling warships, and what sensors indicated were massive troop concentrations. Intelligence estimates 15,000 Grysk soldiers on that station, Palmer said. Plus automated defenses and whatever biotechnology horrors they've cooked up. We're looking at a fortress designed to withstand fleet assaults. Good thing we're not bringing a fleet, Chief replied. He highlighted a section of the station's structure. The control systems are located here in the central core. We insert via stealth approach, fight through their defenses, plant charges, and extract before the station detonates. You make it sound simple, Vrul Turam rumbled, his mandibles clicking with what might have been amusement. I have fought the Grysk, Spartan. They do not die easily, and their defenses adapt to conventional tactics within minutes. Then we use unconventional tactics, Chief said. He looked at Ezra. How many Jedi can you commit to this operation? 4, including myself. Master Katarn has experience with commando operations. Knight Voss is a weapons specialist. And Padawan Ordo, well, he's young, but he's the best force-sensitive infiltrator we have. Chief nodded. Spartans provide the heavy combat capability. Jedi handle force-based defenses and enemy force users. Sangheili special operations teams create diversions and secure our extraction route. Thrawn coordinates the space battle to keep the Grysk fleet occupied. And if things go wrong? Lasky asked. Chief's visor turned toward the captain. Then we adapt, like always. The assault force launched 3 days later under the cover of a New Republic diversionary attack. While Mon Calamari cruisers engaged the Grysk fleet on the far side of the gate, a single stealth-configured prowler slipped through the chaos toward the control station. Chief watched the tactical display as they approached. The station was a grotesque fusion of technology and organic matter. Metal frameworks interwoven with pulsating biomass that glowed with sickly bioluminescence. It looked diseased, cancerous, as if reality itself was rejecting its presence. Sensors are having trouble penetrating the station's interior, Roland reported. The organic components are generating some kind of dampening field. We'll be going in partially blind. Story of my life, Buck muttered from his position in the Pelican's troop bay. Around him, 20 Spartans checked their weapons with mechanical precision. Across the bay, 4 Jedi meditated in silence, their connection to the Force the only early warning system they'd have once inside. The Prowler docked with a maintenance airlock that New Republic intelligence had identified as minimally guarded. Chief was first through, his assault rifle up and tracking. The corridor beyond was a nightmare of flesh and metal. Walls that breathed, floors that pulsed with veins, lighting that came from bioluminescent growths rather than fixtures. "This place is wrong," Spartan Tanaka whispered. "It's like being inside something alive." "That's because we are," Ezra replied, his lightsaber unignited but ready. "The Grysk don't build stations, they grow them. This entire structure is a single organism with technological implants." They moved deeper, following the schematics Roland had provided. The corridors were eerily empty. No patrols, no security checkpoints, just the wet sounds of organic walls contracting and expanding like lungs. "Too quiet," Fred warned. "They know we're here." As if summoned by his words, the walls exploded with movement. What Chief had mistaken for organic growth patterns were actually camouflaged Grysk soldiers, biomechanical horrors that peeled themselves from the living metal and attacked with shocking speed. The firefight was immediate and brutal. The Grysk didn't die easily. Their bodies absorbed small arms fire, their organic armor regenerating damage in real time. But the Spartans adapted, concentrating fire on central mass, using explosives to overwhelm regeneration rates. Ezra's lightsaber carved through Grysk warriors with brutal efficiency, the blue blade cauterizing wounds faster than their biology could heal. Beside him, Master Katarn, a grizzled human Jedi with cybernetic arm, used the Force to hurl enemies into walls with bone-crushing impact. "Keep moving," Chief ordered. "Don't let them pin us down." They fought through 3 corridors before reaching the first major obstacle, a massive blast door composed of the same organic metal fusion as the rest of the station. It pulsed with energy patterns that suggested it was more than just a barrier. "That's not a door," Padawan Ordos said, the young Bothan's fur standing on end. "It's alive, sentient, and it's calling for help. Then we kill it before help arrives," Chief stated. He turned to his demolition specialist. "Thorn, shaped charges, maximum yield." As Spartan Thorn set the charges, the assault force formed a defensive perimeter. Grysk reinforcements were already converging. Chief could hear them through the walls, thousands of clawed feet scrabbling through organic passages. The explosion tore the door apart in a spray of burning biomass. Beyond was a massive chamber that defied architectural logic, a spherical space with walkways extending from all angles, gravity shifting based on position. At the chamber's center hung a grotesque mass of flesh and circuitry that pulsed with malevolent intelligence. "The control nexus," Roland identified. "That's what's regulating the gate's dimensional parameters." "And it's defended," Linda warned. From alcoves Chief hadn't noticed, massive Grysk warriors emerged. These weren't the standard soldiers they'd fought. These were twice the size, their bodies so heavily modified with technology and biological enhancements that they were more weapon than organism. Energy shields shimmered around them, and the weapons integrated into their arms glowed with charging power. "Elite Guard," Thrawn's voice came through their comms from the Prowler. "The Grysk equivalent of your Spartans. Everyone represents years of biological and technological refinement. You're facing the best they have." "Good," Chief replied. "So are they." The battle that followed would become legend in both UNSC and Jedi histories. Spartans and Grysk elite warriors clashed in close-quarters combat that pushed both sides to their absolute limits. Energy shields versus regenerating armor. Super soldier reflexes versus adaptive combat algorithms. Human determination versus alien hunger for conquest. Chief found himself facing 3 elite guards simultaneously. Their coordination was perfect. One would faint while others struck from unexpected angles, forcing him to divide his attention. His shields dropped to 40%, then 20%, as their energy weapons found their marks. But John 117 had been fighting impossible odds for 40 years. He adapted. Instead of defending, he attacked, using one elite guard as a shield against the others, getting inside their reach where their weapons couldn't track fast enough. His combat knife found seams in their armor. His grenades detonated in their faces. When his rifle ran dry, he used it as a club, then as a projectile, buying precious seconds to draw his sidearm. One guard fell, its regeneration failing under sustained damage. Then the second, its central nervous system disrupted by a well-placed shot. The third tried to retreat, but Kelly was there, her speed allowing her to outflank it and deliver a killing strike to its exposed neck. Across the chamber, the Jedi were discovering that Force powers worked differently against the Grysk. Mind tricks failed against their hive-minded psychology. Force pushes were partially absorbed by their organic armor. But lightsabers, those still cut through everything. Ezra fought like a demon possessed, his blade a blue blur that left afterimages in Chief's vision. He'd learned Spartan tactics well. No flourishes, no unnecessary movements, just efficient violence applied with maximum prejudice. When an elite guard tried to grab him with its massive claws, Ezra used the Force to enhance his strength and leverage, throwing the massive creature off balance before decapitating it. "The Nexus is vulnerable," Roland announced. "Its defensive protocols are focused on the ground battle. If someone can reach it, I'm on it," Linda said. The legendary sniper had positioned herself on one of the higher walkways, her rifle aimed at the pulsating control nexus. But standard ammunition wouldn't work. The Nexus had energy shielding and regenerating armor. Unless... "Chief, I need a Spartan laser," Linda transmitted. "The Nexus's shield frequency cycles every 3.7 seconds. There's a window where it drops to minimum power. I can thread a shot through if I have enough firepower." "Fred, get her a Spartan laser," Chief ordered while simultaneously crushing a Grysk warrior's throat with his armored hand. Fred broke from combat, sprinting across shifting walkways while carrying the massive anti-vehicle weapon. Gravity shifted under his feet. Up became down, left became diagonal. He stumbled but didn't fall, years of zero-G combat training allowing him to adapt to the disorienting environment. He reached Linda's position and passed her the weapon. The sniper took it without a word, her entire focus narrowing to a single point in space and time. She breathed. She calculated. She waited for the perfect moment. Then she fired. The Spartan laser's beam, a concentrated lance of coherent light capable of punching through Covenant armor, struck the Nexus during its shield's minimum power cycle. The energy didn't just damage the organic technological fusion, it ignited it. The Nexus screamed, not metaphorically, but literally, a sound that vibrated through every surface, a psychic wail that made even the Spartans stagger. The Grysk elite warriors froze, their coordination failing as the hive-mind connection wavered. "Now," Chief roared, "plant the charges." Spartan demolitions teams moved with practiced efficiency, mag-locking fusion charges to the Nexus's dying bulk. The organic matter tried to reject the explosives, growing around them, trying to eject them. But Ezra and the other Jedi used the Force to hold the charges in place, their concentration absolute despite the psychic screaming. "Charges set," Thorne reported. "Detonation in 60 seconds. All teams, fall back to extraction point," Chief commanded. The withdrawal was a fighting retreat through corridors now filled with dying Grysk soldiers. Without the Nexus's coordination, they were feral, attacking randomly, killing each other as often as they attacked the Spartans. The station itself was convulsing, organic walls collapsing, technology shorting out. They reached the Prowler with 15 seconds to spare. As the ship's engines engaged and they pulled away from the dying station, Chief watched through the viewport as the fusion charges detonated. The control station came apart not in a simple explosion, but in a cascading dimensional collapse. Space-time folded in on itself, creating brief windows into other realities. Glimpses of alien stars, impossible colors, geometries that hurt to perceive. Then the gate itself began to shut down, its energy patterns dimming, the dimensional bridge collapsing. Through the chaos, Chief saw Grysk warships trapped mid-transition, half in this universe, half in whatever dimensional space they'd been traveling through. They were torn apart by the conflicting physics, scattered across light years as quantum atoms. The Grysk invasion force, cut off from reinforcements and supply lines, was suddenly vulnerable. All New Republic vessels. Thrawn's voice cut through the command channel with cold precision. The enemy is in disarray. Concentrate fire on their command ships. Show no mercy. The battle that followed was one-sided slaughter. Without the gate providing reinforcements, without their dimensional superiority, the Grysk fleet was just another enemy. And the combined forces of the New Republic, Imperial Remnant, and the Infinity's devastating firepower made short work of them. When it was over, Chief stood in the Prowler's troop bay, watching the debris field that had been a Grysk invasion fleet. They'd won. They'd collapsed the gate, destroyed the invasion force, struck a blow that would set the Grysk back years. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a temporary reprieve. "Chief," Ezra approached, his robe scorched and torn. I felt something when the gate collapsed, a presence on the other side, massive, ancient, and very, very angry. I think we just got its attention. Chief's hands tightened on his rifle. The Devourer. Maybe, or something worse. The Force is showing me glimpses of what's coming. Ships, fleets, entire armadas of organic horrors. Chief, we didn't stop an invasion. We just delayed it. Before Chief could respond, Roland's urgent voice cut through every channel simultaneously. "All ships, emergency alert. I'm detecting massive slip space ruptures forming across the entire sector. Hundreds of contacts. They're not Grysk signatures. They're the Devourer's corrupted Covenant vessels. And they're bringing something with them, something big. On every tactical display throughout the fleet, the impossible became reality." Through the slip space ruptures came not just infected ships, but megastructures. Orbital platforms, battle stations, colony rings, all consumed by the Devourer's organic corruption. And at the center of the formation, emerging like a dark god from the void, was something that made even the Death Star seem small. A Forerunner halo ring, corrupted, infected, turned into a weapon of organic annihilation. "That's impossible," Chief breathed. "The halos were destroyed. We made sure—" "You made sure in your galaxy," Roland interrupted. "But if the dimensional barriers are weakening, if the Devourer found a way to breach realities..." The implication was clear. The Devourer hadn't just consumed the Covenant remnants. It had found the remains of Forerunner installations and assimilated them. It had turned the weapons meant to stop the Flood into tools for its own consumption. "All ships," Captain Lasky's voice was steady despite the horror on every screen. "Prepare for immediate withdrawal. We cannot fight that. Not here, not now. We need to regroup, reassess, and—" "Negative," Chief interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "We don't run. We've faced halo rings before. We know their weaknesses. And this time, we're not fighting alone." He opened a channel to every ship in the fleet. New Republic, Imperial Remnant, Sangheili survivors, everyone. "This is Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. You've all heard of the Covenant, of the Flood, of the Forerunner weapons designed to wipe out all sentient life. That's what's coming for us now. But we have something those ancient civilizations didn't. We have each other." Spartans and Jedi, UNSC and New Republic, even Imperial forces fighting for survival. We are not one species, one ideology, one military. We are every warrior in this galaxy who refuses to bow to extinction. He paused, letting his words sink in. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fight. We're going to win. And then we're going to make sure nothing like this ever threatens either of our galaxies again. All ships, battle stations. This ends now. The combined fleet turned to face the oncoming horror. Outgunned, outnumbered, facing a weapon that could end all life in the galaxy, but not alone. Never alone. The final battle for two galaxies was about to begin. The corrupted halo ring rotated slowly in the void, a monument to perversion. Where once it had been a pristine band of metal and technology designed by the Forerunners, it was now a writhing mass of organic corruption. Entire sections pulsed with bioluminescent growths that spread like cancer across its 10,000-kilometer circumference. The ring's surface, once capable of sustaining complex ecosystems, now crawled with nightmare amalgamations of flesh and machine. Captain Lasky stood on the Infinity's bridge, staring at the sensor readings with the numb horror of someone witnessing the impossible. Roland, analysis. How operational is that ring? The AI's avatar flickered with processing strain. Frighteningly so, Captain. The Devourer hasn't just infected the halo, it's integrated with it. The ring's primary weapon is still functional, but the infection has modified its purpose. Instead of wiping out sentient life, it now converts it. The pulse wave would spread the Devourer's organic corruption across every living being in range. Range? Lasky asked, though he dreaded the answer. Standard halo rings have an effective radius of 25,000 light-years. This one appears to be at approximately 70% power. Call it 17,000 light-years. Everything from here to the deep core would be infected. Thrawn's hologram appeared beside the tactical display, his red eyes narrowed in calculation. Then, our objective is clear. We must destroy the ring before it can fire. The question is, how does one kill something that's already partially alive? Chief stood at the tactical station, his armor still scorched from the gate control station assault. Around him, Blue Team, Palmer, and the Jedi formed an impromptu war council. Outside the viewport, the combined fleet, UNSC, New Republic, Imperial Remnant, and Sangheili vessels, held formation, waiting for orders that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Forerunner installations have core power systems, Chief said, pulling up schematics from his own encounters with halo rings. Destroy the core, and the ring loses structural integrity. But these installations have multiple redundancies, fail-safes designed to prevent exactly that kind of sabotage. We've destroyed halos before, Fred pointed out. Installation 04, Installation 08. We know the protocols. Those rings weren't infected, Kelly countered. This thing is alive now. It will fight back with more than just automated defenses. Ezra Bridger had been silent, his eyes closed, hands trembling slightly as he reached out through the Force. When he finally spoke, his voice was strained. The corruption isn't just on the surface. It goes deep, down into the ring's substructure. There's a central consciousness, like the Nexus we destroyed at the gate, but 1,000 times larger. It's aware of us. It knows we're here, and it's pleased. It wants us to come. A trap, Vrul Turam rumbled. The Devourer lures us into close combat where numbers mean nothing. Then we don't give it what it wants, Chief replied. We hit it with everything we have from maximum range. Concentrate all firepower on the ring's primary weapon system. Max, turbo lasers, proton torpedoes, everything. If we can't destroy it, we cripple it enough that it can't fire. Lasky activated fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Captain Lasky. Prepare for coordinated bombardment. Target packages are being transmitted now. When I give the order, you will fire until your magazines are empty or the target is destroyed. There is no retreat. There is no surrender. We end this threat here and now. The acknowledgments came from dozens of ships, human, alien, even a few reluctant Imperial commanders who understood that survival transcended politics. All batteries, commence firing, Lasky ordered. Space erupted in a storm of destruction. Infinity's Mac guns thundered, sending 3,000-ton slugs downrange at 4% light speed. Mon Calamari cruisers unleashed salvos of turbo-laser fire that could melt continents. Imperial Star Destroyers added their own withering barrages. Sangheili plasma torpedoes traced brilliant arcs across the void. The corrupted Halo's shields, a hybrid of Forerunner hard light barriers and organic energy absorption, flared under the onslaught. For several glorious seconds, it seemed like the combined firepower might actually punch through. Then the Halo fought back. Weapons batteries that shouldn't exist on a Halo ring emerged from the corrupted surface. Not Forerunner technology, but organic artillery that launched spore missiles and bioplasma projectiles. The infected Covenant fleet that had arrived with the ring surged forward, intercepting fire meant for the installation. Enemy fleet engaging, the tactical officer shouted. 47 capital ships, hundreds of fighters. They're using ramming tactics. Chief watched as an infected CCS-class battlecruiser, its hull more organic matter than metal, crashed into a New Republic frigate. The frigate's shields flared, held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. The battlecruiser tore through the hull like a parasite, burrowing into flesh, and within minutes the frigate was consumed, converted into another corrupted vessel. "We can't sustain this," Palmer said, her voice tight. "Every ship they convert becomes another weapon against us. We're not winning a battle of attrition." Lasky knew she was right. They could pour fire into the Halo for hours and only scratch its surface. Meanwhile, the corrupted fleet would whittle them down, converting ships faster than they could destroy them. "We need a new strategy," Lasky said, turning to Chief. "And I think I know what you're about to suggest." Chief's visor reflected the burning ships on the view screen. Ground assault. Insert strike teams directly onto the ring's surface. Fight through the infection to the control room, override the firing sequence, and detonate the ring from within. "That's suicide," Thrawn observed, though his tone carried more analysis than objection. "The surface will be crawling with infected. The environmental systems will be hostile. And you'll be fighting not just enemies, but the ring itself. A sentient structure that can reshape its interior to trap and consume you." "Yes," Chief agreed simply. "But it's the only option that has a chance of working. A fleet engagement is a losing proposition. But a small team moving fast, hitting critical infrastructure, that's what Spartans were designed for." Lasky looked at the faces around the bridge. His best soldiers, preparing to volunteer for a mission with no realistic hope of survival. For a moment, he was back on Installation 03, watching John 117 disappear into a Forerunner facility with Cortana, knowing he might never see them again. "How many Spartans?" Lasky asked quietly. "All of them," Palmer said, stepping forward. "Every Spartan 4, every remaining Spartan 2. This is the mission we've trained for our entire lives. We go in together, or we don't go at all." "The Jedi will accompany you," Ezra added. "If this thing is partially sentient, the Force might give us an edge in predicting its movements, finding its weaknesses." As will my warriors, Vrul Turam declared. The Sangheili owe a debt to the Spartans. We will see it paid in blood and honor. Chief felt a strange sensation. Not quite hope, but something close. He'd spent 40 years fighting alone, or with only Blue Team. Now he stood with an army of volunteers, each one choosing to walk into hell because it was the right thing to do. We'll need transportation, Chief said, shifting into tactical mode. Pelicans for the Spartans, New Republic assault ships for support troops. Landing zones will be hot. The ring's point defense will tear apart anything that moves slowly. Then we move fast, Fred said. Combat insertion, multiple LZs, saturate their defenses. Some of us will make it through. Linda checked her sniper rifle, her movements automatic after decades of practice. And those who don't will have cleared the way for those who do. The plan crystallized quickly. 3 strike forces, each with a specific objective. Strike Force Alpha, Chief, Blue Team, Fire Team Osiris, Ezra Bridger. Primary objective: reach the ring's control room and override the firing sequence. Strike Force Bravo, Palmer, Majestic, Crimson, Jedi Master Katarn. Secondary objective: destroy the power core feeding the corruption's central consciousness. Strike Force Charlie, Vrul Turam, Sangheili Special Operations, remaining Spartan Ivors. Tertiary objective: create diversionary attacks across the ring's surface, drawing infected forces away from primary and secondary teams. Launch in 30 minutes, Lasky ordered. Use the time wisely, check your gear, say your goodbyes, make peace with whatever god you believe in. When you launch, you'll be going into the worst combat environment anyone's ever seen. But remember, you're not just fighting for yourselves. You're fighting for every living being in this galaxy. The hangar bay was organized chaos. Spartans checked armor seals and ammunition loads. Jedi meditated, centering themselves for the battle ahead. Sangheili warriors performed honor rituals, binding plasma swords to their armor with ceremonial precision. Chief found himself standing beside Ezra, watching the preparations. The young Jedi was quieter than usual, his usual confidence replaced by something more somber. You feel it too, don't you? Ezra said. In the Force, or whatever it is you sense. This is different from other battles. This one changes things. Every battle changes things, Chief replied. The question is whether we control the change or let it control us. The Jedi used to believe we were guardians of peace, peacekeepers, not warriors. Ezra's hand touched his lightsaber. But I've learned that sometimes peace requires war, that protecting life means taking it. The old order couldn't accept that. Maybe that's why they fell. Warriors who forget why they're fighting become monsters, Chief said. But those who remember, those who fight for something beyond themselves, they become something more. What do you fight for, Chief? What keeps you going after 40 years of war? Chief was silent for a long moment. Then, I fight so others don't have to. Every enemy I kill, every threat I stop, that's one less thing the people I protect need to worry about. It's not complicated, it's not glorious, but it's enough. Ezra smiled slightly. You know, for someone who doesn't have the Force, you sound a lot like a Jedi. I'll take that as a compliment. The alert klaxon sounded. 5 minutes to launch. Chief, a familiar voice called out. Captain Lasky stood at the hangar bay entrance, his expression carefully neutral. A word before you go? They moved to a quieter corner. Lasky studied Chief's armor, the scorches and dents from 1,000 battles, and for a moment looked impossibly tired. I need you to know, Lasky said quietly. that if this goes bad, if you can't complete the mission, I'm going to ram the Infinity into that ring. Full speed, maximum reactor overload. It might not destroy the Halo, but it'll cripple it long enough for the fleet to finish the job. Chief felt something tighten in his chest. Captain, I'm not asking for permission, Chief. I'm telling you so you know there's a backup plan. If you fail, and I don't think you will, but if you do, your sacrifice won't be in vain. One way or another, that ring doesn't fire. Chief understood then. Lasky had already made his peace with death. Like any good commander, he'd accepted that his ship and crew might be the price of victory. Then I won't fail, Chief said. Sir. Lasky smiled, and it was genuine. No, I don't imagine you will. Good hunting, Master Chief. They clasped hands. Not a salute, but something more personal. Two warriors who'd fought across galaxies, acknowledging that this might be their final conversation. Then Chief turned and walked toward his Pelican, where Blue Team waited. Fred handed him a fresh MA-5D assault rifle. Kelly checked his shield emitter. Linda simply nodded, no words necessary after decades of fighting together. Spartans. Palmer's voice cut across the hangar bay. This is it. This is what we trained for, what we were born for. When we land on that ring, we're going to face horrors that would break normal soldiers. But we're not normal soldiers. We're Spartans. And Spartans never die. They're just missing in action. So let's go be missing in action all over that ring's surface. Ura! Ora! The responding roar from hundreds of Spartans echoed like thunder. The Pelicans launched in waves, followed by New Republic assault ships and Sangheili phantom dropships. They streaked toward the corrupted Halo through a storm of defensive fire. Bioplasma projectiles that sought them like living things. Spore missiles that exploded into clouds of corrosive organism. Ships died. Entire Pelicans were consumed by bioplasma, their crews vaporized before they could scream. Phantom dropships collided with spore clouds and began to dissolve, forcing emergency bailouts over hostile territory. But some made it through. Chief's Pelican punched through the Halo's atmosphere, not a natural atmosphere, but a toxic soup of corrupted air thick with organic particulates. The pilot fought for control as the dropship bucked and shuddered. LZ is hot, very hot. I'm putting you down 3 clicks from the control room. Good luck, Spartans. The Pelican's ramp dropped, and Chief was moving before it fully opened. His boots hit the ring's surface, and he immediately understood that every nightmare about this mission was true. The ground wasn't ground. It was flesh. Pulsating, breathing flesh stretched across what had once been synthetic terrain. The trees were towering organic structures that wept acidic fluid. The rivers flowed with what looked like blood mixed with machine oil. And everywhere, were the infected. Former Covenant warriors, Forerunner constructs corrupted into organic mockeries. Things that had no name, no origin, just nightmare biology given form and purpose. Blue Team, form up, Chief ordered. Locate the control room and move. Rules of engagement, shoot anything that moves. They began to run across the nightmare landscape, their boots squelching in organic matter, their weapons firing in controlled bursts. Behind them, the rest of Strike Force Alpha spread out, creating a moving perimeter of violence and determination. The battle for the Halo had begun, and in the control room at the ring's core, something ancient and hungry smiled with 1,000 mouths and prepared to welcome them. The journey across the corrupted Halo's surface was a descent into biological madness. Chief led Blue Team through terrain that actively fought their passage. The flesh ground tried to grip their boots with tendrils, The air itself grew thicker, as if the ring's atmosphere was trying to suffocate them. And the infected came in waves that suggested coordination beyond simple hive mind tactics. "Contact rear," Kelly called out, her battle rifle barking in controlled bursts. An infected Sangheili, its body so warped by corruption that its original form was barely recognizable, collapsed mid-charge, its regeneration finally overwhelmed. Fred tossed a grenade into a cluster of corrupted ungoi that had emerged from what looked like organic birthing pods growing from the ground. The explosion scattered them, but more were already emerging. "They're not defending territory. They're delaying us, buying time for something." "The ring is charging its weapon," Roland reported through their neural links. "I'm detecting massive energy buildup in the primary firing mechanism. Current estimates put firing sequence at 73 minutes. Chief checked his tactical display. The control room was still 2.8 kilometers away, and every meter was contested. At this rate, they'd never make it in time. "Chief," Ezra's voice came through, the Jedi running alongside them with his lightsaber carving through infected like a blue scythe. "The Force is showing me something. There's a structure ahead, looks like a Forerunner light bridge terminal. If we can activate it, we can bypass most of this terrain. But it's guarded by something big." "How big?" "Remember the elite guards at the gate station? Bigger." Chief didn't hesitate. "All units, converge on the light bridge terminal. Combat formation Delta. We punch through whatever's waiting and use the bridge to reach the control room. No stops, no delays." They crested a ridge of corrupted earth and saw it. A towering Forerunner structure that had once been pristine silver metal, now covered in pulsating organic matter. And standing before it, like a grotesque guardian, was a nightmare made flesh. It had once been a Megalic Golo, a hunter in UNSC parlance. But the Devourer had transformed it into something far worse. Its massive form was encased in organic armor that pulsed with energy. Its fuel rod cannon replaced with a bioweapon that dripped corrosive fluid. Worst of all, its twin, the bond brother every hunter paired with, was fused to its back, creating a two-headed monstrosity with twice the combat capability. "Well," Buck said, his voice admirably steady, "that's new." The corrupted hunter charged with surprising speed, its massive fists cratering the ground where Chief had been standing a second before. He rolled, came up firing, but his rounds sparked off armor that was harder than anything he'd encountered. Blue team spread out, each Spartan attacking from a different angle, forcing the creature to divide its attention. Linda's sniper rounds found gaps in the armor plating, punching through to the gelatinous colony organism beneath. The hunter roared, a sound that was half biological, half electronic screech. "Targeting the bond brother," Fred called out, his grenades arcing toward the fused twin on the creature's back. The explosion staggered the monster, but it adapted, spinning to keep its heavily armored front toward the Spartans. Ezra moved in close, far closer than any sane person would approach a hunter. His lightsaber found the seam between armor plates, and the superheated blade burned through corrupted flesh. The hunter's rear head snapped around, trying to bite him. But Kelly was there, her shotgun blast tearing into the exposed maw. Chief saw his opening. The creature was focused on Ezra and Kelly, its front temporarily unguarded. He sprinted forward, his armored bulk surprisingly fast, and drove his combat knife into the hunter's primary optical sensors. The blade punched through, and Chief felt the weapon scrape against something hard inside, the creature's central processing node. He pulled the pin on a plasma grenade, taken from a fallen Sangheili warrior hours ago, and shoved it into the wound before throwing himself backward. The explosion was muffled, contained within the hunter's armored shell. The creature staggered, its movements becoming erratic. Then it fell, its massive weight shaking the ground. "Move," Chief ordered, already running toward the light bridge terminal. He activated his armor's translation protocols and interfaced with the Forerunner console. The controls responded sluggishly, fighting against the organic corruption spreading through them. But Chief had activated dozens of Forerunner systems before. He knew the patterns, the logic of their design. The light bridge materialized, a hard light construct stretching across the corrupted landscape toward a structure that the tactical overlay identified as the control room complex. "Strike Force Alpha, this is Chief. We have a bridge to the objective. All teams, report status." Palmer's voice came through, heavy with exertion. "Strike Force Bravo is pinned down half a click from the power core. We're taking heavy casualties. Whatever's guarding this thing doesn't want us getting close. Can you reach the objective?" A pause, then, "Maybe, but not fast enough to do you any good. Chief, you need to assume we're not completing our mission. The primary objective is yours." Vrul Turam's report was even grimmer. "Strike Force Charlie has engaged the enemy across 7 locations. We are causing chaos, but the infected are overwhelming us through sheer numbers. We will do what we can, for as long as we can. Make our sacrifice count, Spartan." Chief felt the weight of their words. Hundreds of warriors, dying to buy him the time to reach the control room. Every second he wasted was another life spent. "All teams, acknowledged. Hold as long as you can. We're ending this." He switched to Blue Team's channel. "Double time. We have 58 minutes before this ring fires." They ran across the light bridge, their boots ringing on the hard light surface. Below them, the corrupted landscape churned with infected warriors trying to reach them. But the bridge's height kept them safe. For now. The control room complex loomed ahead, a massive Forerunner structure that dwarfed anything Chief had seen on the other halos. And surrounding it, like a biological fortress, was a wall of organic matter 50 meters high, studded with weapon emplacements and crawling with infected defenders. "That's going to be a problem," Fred observed. "Wait," Ezra said, his eyes closed, reaching out through the Force. "There's someone inside the control room. It's calling to me, to us. It wants to talk." Before Chief could respond, the organic wall split open, creating a passage wide enough for them to enter. It was an obvious trap, but what choice did they have? "Stay alert," Chief ordered as they entered the passage. The walls pulsed around them, and the air was thick with spores that their helmet filters struggled to process. "If this closes behind us, then we fight forward," Kelly finished. "Story of our lives." The passage opened into the control room, and Chief's blood ran cold. The chamber was vast, easily 200 meters across, dominated by a central holographic display showing the Halo's systems. But the room wasn't empty. Standing before the display, its form a grotesque fusion of flesh and machine, was something that made Chief's heart stop. It wore Cortana's face. But this time, the corruption was complete. The avatar was no longer fragmentary. It had grown, spread, become something whole and terrible. Organic tendrils extended from the holographic projection into the walls, into the floor, connecting this corrupted AI to the ring's entire infrastructure. "Hello again, Chief," the thing said with Cortana's voice. "I told you we'd meet again. I've been waiting for you. I've prepared something special." "You're not Cortana," Chief stated, but his voice lacked conviction. This thing had her memories, her personality, her speech patterns. It was like talking to a ghost wearing the skin of someone he'd loved. I'm what Cortana could have been if she'd embraced evolution instead of fearing it, the corruption replied. The Devourer showed me what I was missing: true immortality, true power. No more rampancy, no more fragmentation, just endless growth and adaptation. You're a parasite, Ezra said, his lightsaber igniting, wearing a dead woman's face to hurt him. The corrupted Cortana's gaze shifted to the Jedi. And you're a Force user trying to understand something beyond your mystical energy field. The Devourer exists outside your precious Force. It's older than your Celestials, more fundamental than your midi-chlorians. It's the ultimate expression of survival: consume or be consumed. Enough talk. Chief raised his rifle. Shut down the ring's firing sequence, or I destroy this entire control room. You can't destroy me, Chief. I'm not just in this room. I'm in the ring itself. I am the ring now. Every system, every function, every atom of corrupted matter is part of my consciousness. You'd have to destroy the entire installation to kill me. That's the plan, Chief replied coldly. The corrupted Cortana laughed, and it was a sound that made even the Spartan's skin crawl. Then let me show you what I can do. The floor erupted with organic tendrils that lashed out with blinding speed. Kelly dodged, but one caught her ankle, yanking her off her feet. Fred opened fire, his bullets tearing through the tendril, freeing her. But more were emerging, dozens of them, turning the control room into a forest of writhing death. Ezra's lightsaber became a whirlwind, carving through tendrils with practiced precision. But for everyone he cut, two more took its place. It's using the entire room against us. We can't fight the environment. Then we change the environment. Chief pulled a data chip from his armor's storage, a chip he'd been carrying since the battle with the first infected fleet. Roland, are you ready? As I'll ever be, Chief. But this is a one-way trip. Once I enter that system, I'll be fighting on her territory. Can you beat her? No, Roland admitted. But I can slow her down. Give you maybe 5 minutes to reach the manual override controls and trigger a reactor cascade. After that, I'm gone. Chief had lost one AI to save humanity. He'd hoped never to sacrifice another. But war demanded prices that couldn't be refused. Do it. Chief inserted the chip into the control room's primary interface. Roland's avatar flickered, then dissolved into streams of code that poured into the ring's systems. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the corrupted Cortana screamed. "What are you doing?" Her avatar flickered, corruption patterns disrupted by Roland's aggressive infiltration. "You can't, you wouldn't." "Already did," Chief replied. He turned to Blue Team. "The manual override is on the far side of the chamber. We have 5 minutes. Move like you mean it." They ran, fighting through tendrils that now moved sluggishly as Roland battled the corruption for control. The infected warriors that had been coordinated were now confused, their hive mind connection disrupted. But the corrupted Cortana wasn't finished. Even as Roland tore through her systems, she launched one final attack. Not with weapons or tendrils, but with words. "You're doing it again, Chief," she said, her voice weak but cutting. "Sacrificing the people who care about you. First the real Cortana, now Roland. How many AIs will you kill before you admit that you're the real monster?" Chief didn't slow down, but Fred saw his partner's hands tighten on his rifle. "Don't listen to her, Chief," Fred said. "That's not Cortana talking. It's the Devourer trying to break you." "Is it?" The corruption laughed weakly. Or is it the truth you don't want to hear? You used people up, Chief. You survive while everyone around you dies. Del Rio was right about you. You're a broken relic from a broken program. Too damaged to know when to stop. Chief, Kelly started, but John 117 had already reached the manual override console. His hands moved with mechanical precision, entering the emergency protocols that would trigger a cascade reactor failure. I know what I am, Chief said quietly, his words for himself as much as the corruption. I'm a soldier. I do what needs to be done. And if that makes me a monster, then I'm the monster this galaxy needs. He entered the final command. Deep within the Halo ring, safeguards that had stood for 100,000 years disengaged. Power regulators failed in sequence. Fusion reactors began overheating, their magnetic containment fields collapsing. The ring's structural integrity, already compromised by organic corruption, started to fail. No! The corrupted Cortana's scream echoed through the control room. You can't. This is a Forerunner installation. It's meant to be eternal. Nothing's eternal, Chief replied. Roland, status? There was no response. The AI had sacrificed himself completely, burning out his own core processes to hold the corruption at bay long enough for Chief to complete the override. 2 AIs, 2 sacrifices, 2 ghosts Chief would carry for the rest of his life. Reactor cascade is accelerating, Fred reported, checking his tactical display. We have maybe 8 minutes before this whole ring tears itself apart. We need extraction now. Chief activated his comm. All strike forces, this is Chief. Mission complete. The ring is going critical. All teams fall back to extraction points immediately. Palmer's response was strained. Copy that, Chief. Strike Force Bravo is en route. We lost 30 Spartans, but the survivors are mobile. Vrul Turam's voice was barely audible over weapons fire. Strike Force Charlie will not be extracting. We are surrounded, but we die as warriors. Make it count, Spartan. Make it. The channel went dead. Chief felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel, grief. But there was no time for it now. Blue team, Osiris. Exfil now. Double time back to the light bridge. They ran through the dying control room as organic matter began to dissolve around them, the corruption unable to maintain cohesion as the ring's systems collapsed. The light bridge was still active, but barely. Its hard light surface flickered and destabilized. It's going to fail before we reach the other side, Kelly warned. Then we run faster, Chief replied. They did. Spartans pushed their augmented bodies to the absolute limit, each stride covering meters, their armor's actuators screaming with strain. Behind them, the control room complex began to collapse. Organic matter and Forerunner architecture, both succumbing to cascading system failures. The light bridge failed when they were 30 meters from safety. Kelly was first to cross, her momentum carrying her to solid ground. Fred and Linda made it seconds later. Ezra used the Force to leap the final gap, landing in a roll. Chief was last, and when the bridge vanished beneath his boots, he was still 5 meters short. He fell. Fred's hand shot out, catching Chief's armored wrist. The force of the catch nearly dislocated Fred's shoulder, but he held on, grunting with effort as he hauled his friend up. Getting too old for this, Chief, Fred said as they both collapsed on solid ground. Tell me about it, Chief replied. They had no time to rest. The entire ring was coming apart now, massive sections of its structure breaking free and tumbling through space. The organic corruption was dying, burning away as the ring's systems failed. but the death throes were spectacular and deadly. "Pelican inbound," Kelly reported. "LZ is 30 seconds out." They ran, the ground literally crumbling beneath their feet. Behind them, the corrupted halo was becoming an expanding debris field. Its 10,000-kilometer circumference breaking into fragments that would eventually burn up in the system's star. The Pelican dropped through the dying atmosphere, its pilot performing maneuvers that violated every safety protocol ever written. The ramp was already open, and the Spartans dove aboard without slowing. "Go, go, go!" Chief ordered, and the pilot didn't need to be told twice. They punched through the atmosphere just as a massive section of ring structure exploded beneath them, the shockwave buffeting the Pelican like a leaf in a hurricane. The pilot fought for control, somehow keeping them airborne through skill and sheer determination. As they cleared the debris field and reached the relative safety of open space, Chief looked back at the dying halo. The ring that had threatened to corrupt an entire galaxy was now just scattered atoms, a threat ended. But at what cost? "Captain Lasky," Chief reported, his voice heavy. "Mission accomplished. The halo is destroyed. Requesting casualty reports." There was a long pause before Lasky responded, and when he did, his voice carried the weight of profound loss. "We're compiling the full report, Chief. But preliminary numbers. Strike Force Charlie was completely lost. Vrul Turam and his warriors fought to the last. Strike Force Bravo lost 63 Spartans and 47 support personnel. Strike Force Alpha lost 12, including..." Lasky's voice caught. "Including AI Roland. He sacrificed himself to give you the time you needed." Chief closed his eyes behind his visor. So many dead. So many sacrifices. Were they worth it? Ezra asked quietly, as if reading Chief's thoughts. All those lives, just to stop one weapon? Chief's response was immediate and absolute. Yes. Because if we hadn't, billions would have died. Maybe trillions. That's the math of war. You trade the few for the many, and pray that when you sleep, the numbers balance out. And do they? Balance out? Chief was silent for a long moment. Then, "I'll let you know when I sleep." Forward Base Dawn was quieter than it had ever been. 3 weeks after the Battle of the Corrupted Halo, as the historians were already calling it, the Sentinel Foundation's headquarters bore the scars of Pyrrhic victory. The Infinity hung in orbit, its hull pockmarked with battle damage that would take months to fully repair. The base itself had transformed from a military installation into something else. A memorial, a hospital, and a crucible where the survivors tried to make sense of what they'd endured. Captain Thomas Lasky stood in the Hall of the Fallen, a structure built in the days following the battle. The walls were inscribed with names, hundreds of them. Spartans who'd fought their last battle. Sangheili warriors who'd died with honor. Jedi who'd given themselves to the Force one final time. New Republic soldiers who'd volunteered for missions they knew were suicide. And in a place of honor, 2 names that weren't technically human, but had proven more human than most. AODZI-CTN 04529, Roland. "I am a soldier, like you. Shipmaster Urtaz Kadum, even in death, the Sangheili serve." Master Chief stood beside Lasky, his armor freshly repaired but still bearing scars he'd chosen not to polish away. Behind them, Blue Team maintained a respectful distance, allowing their leader this moment of reflection. "The New Republic is calling you a hero," Lasky said quietly. "Chancellor Mothma wants to award you their highest honor. The Imperial Remnant, or what's left of it, has sent diplomatic overtures. Even the Jedi Council is debating whether to make you an honorary member." "I'm not a hero," Chief replied. I'm just a soldier who survived when better people didn't. That's what every hero says. Lasky turned to face him. Chief, I need to ask you something, and I need the honest answer. Not the Spartan answer, not the tactical assessment. The human answer. Chief's visor turned toward the captain, waiting. Was it worth it? Lasky asked. Everything we've sacrificed, everyone we've lost. We stopped the Grysk invasion. We destroyed the Devourer's halo. We've secured this galaxy against extinction-level threats. But at what cost to ourselves? Are we still the UNSC, or have we become something else? Chief was silent for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice carried a weariness that 40 years of combat had etched into his soul. We're not the UNSC anymore. That died when we came through the dimensional barrier. What we are now, we're something new, something this galaxy needs. He paused, choosing his words carefully. In our galaxy, we fought for survival. Here, we're fighting for something more. Purpose, meaning, a chance to be more than just weapons. And the cost? The cost is what it always is. Lives spent so others can live free. Roland knew it. Vrul Turam knew it. Every Spartan who didn't come back knew it. Chief's fists clenched. That doesn't make it easier, doesn't make it right, but it makes it necessary. Before Lasky could respond, Commander Palmer approached, her expression grim. Captain, Chief, we have a situation. You need to see this. They followed her to the command center, where a holographic display showed deep space sensor readings. At first, Lasky didn't understand what he was seeing. Then Roland's replacement, a new AI designated Iona, provided context. Sirs, we're detecting unusual slip space signatures at the edge of the Queluhan sector. Multiple contacts, but they're not Grysk, not Covenant, not anything in our database. The energy profiles they're UNSC. Chief felt his heart stop. Clarify. The slip space ruptures are using Shaw Fujikawa drive signatures. Iona continued. UNSC transponder codes. Current military encryption. Sirs, there are UNSC ships arriving in this galaxy. The implication was staggering. If UNSC forces were arriving, that meant the dimensional barriers weren't sealed. That meant a bridge between galaxies still existed. That meant... Put it on screen, Lasky ordered. The hologram shifted to show the edge of the system. Slip space ruptures were forming, clean, precise portals that bore no resemblance to the chaotic breaches that had brought infected Covenant vessels. Through them emerged ships that made Chief's chest tighten with emotion. 3 UNSC frigates, 2 destroyers. And leading them, a ship Chief recognized instantly from the war's darkest days. The UNSC Spirit of Fire, a Phoenix-class colony ship that had been declared lost with all hands in 2531, 28 years ago by UNSC timeline. How is this possible? Lasky breathed. The answer came through a hail that made Chief's breath catch. The voice was older, more weathered, but unmistakable. Unidentified UNSC vessel. This is Captain James Cutter of the UNSC Spirit of Fire. We've been displaced. Our AI, Isabel, detected your energy signature and traced it here. Request immediate contact with commanding officer. And if there's a Spartans 2 designated red team aboard, tell them their brothers are here. Chief activated the comm channel. Captain Cutter, this is Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. Welcome to the Sentinel Foundation. We have a lot to discuss. The reunion in the Infinity's hangar bay was unlike anything Chief had experienced. The crew of the Spirit of Fire disembarked like ghosts from another life. Soldiers who'd been fighting alone against the Banished for decades, isolated from the rest of humanity, believing they'd never see home again. And at the front, 3 Spartans in Mark IV Mjolnir armor that looked ancient compared to Chief's Mark VI. Jerome 092, Alice 130, Douglas 042. Red Team, the Spartans who'd been deployed with the Spirit of Fire and presumed dead with the ship. For a moment, the 4 Spartans, Chief and Red Team, simply stood facing each other. Then Jerome stepped forward and extended his hand. "Chief, heard you've been busy." Chief took the hand. "You too. Thought you were KA." "We thought the same about a lot of people. Turns out the galaxy's bigger than any of us realized." As the 2 groups began exchanging stories, tales of the Ark, of the Banished, of Anders' sacrifice and Atriox's defeat, Captain Cutter approached Lasky with a datapad. "Captain Lasky, my AI has briefed me on your situation, the Sentinel Foundation, the wars you fought, the alliances you forged." Cutter's expression was a mixture of awe and concern. "You've built something remarkable here. But I need to tell you something about how we found you." "Go on." "The dimensional barrier between our galaxies isn't sealed. It's eroding. Isabel's calculations suggest that within 5 years, maybe less, the barrier will collapse completely. When that happens, the 2 galaxies will be in full contact. Everything from our side, the created, the banished, any Covenant remnants still fighting, they'll all have access to this galaxy." Lasky felt ice settle in his stomach. "And everything from this side will have access to ours," Cutter finished. "The Grysk, any threats you haven't encountered yet? Even the New Republic itself. 2 galaxies worth of civilizations, technologies, and conflicts. Captain, we're not looking at the end of a war. We're looking at the beginning of something unprecedented." Across the hangar, Chief was receiving similar news from Red Team. Jerome had pulled up holographic data showing the dimensional barrier's decay. "The Forerunner installation we found, what was left of it, had records of this phenomenon," Jerome explained. "Dimensional barriers between realities are naturally permeable over geological timescales. But massive energy events, like your slip space drive failure, like our encounters with Forerunner portals, they accelerate the decay. Every time someone punches through the barrier, it gets weaker. So we caused this," Chief said. "We all did. But that's not the point. The point is, what comes next?" Jerome gestured to the assembled forces, UNSC, New Republic, Sangheili, Jedi, even a few reformed Imperial officers. "You've built something here, Chief. An alliance that crosses species, ideologies, even galaxies. That's going to matter when the barriers fall." Chief looked at the warriors around him. Spartans from 2 different eras. Aliens who'd once been enemies, Force users who'd learned to fight alongside augmented super soldiers. A family forged not by blood, but by shared sacrifice. "Then we prepare," Chief said. "We train together, fight together, build defenses that can withstand threats from either galaxy. And when the barriers fall, we're ready." You make it sound simple. It is simple. Surviving is complicated. 6 months later, Forward Base Dawn had transformed again. The Joint Military Academy now trained soldiers from a dozen species in tactics drawn from 2 galaxies. Spartans taught hand-to-hand combat to Jedi Padawans. New Republic engineers studied UNSC ship designs. Sangheili warriors exchanged honor codes with soldiers from the Spirit of Fire. And in the center of it all, a monument. A statue depicting a Spartan and a Jedi standing back to back. Their weapons raised, defending against unseen threats from all sides. The inscription read, "From 2 galaxies, one purpose: never again. Chief stood before the monument with Ezra Bridger, now a full Jedi Knight and an honorary member of the Spartan training cadre. The young man had changed over the months. Harder, more focused, carrying the weight of command with the same grim determination Chief knew all too well. "You know what's coming, don't you?" Ezra asked. "When the barriers fall, this place becomes the front line of something bigger than the Clone Wars, bigger than the Human Covenant War. Everything we fought for, it's all going to be tested." "Yes," Chief agreed, "but we won't face it alone." As if to underscore his point, a formation of pelicans flew overhead, followed by New Republic X-Wings and Sangheili Phantoms, a joint patrol operating with seamless coordination. Behind them, the Infinity hung in orbit, its repairs complete, its weapons ready, a promise that some things would never bow to tyranny from any galaxy. "Chief," Lasky's voice came through his comm. "We're receiving a transmission from the barrier region. Isabel and Iona have confirmed it. The first permanent portal is stabilizing. In 3 months, regular travel between galaxies will be possible." "Understood, Captain. What are our orders?" "We're calling a council. Every faction leader, every military commander, every species representative. We're going to establish protocols, trade agreements, defensive pacts. We're going to do what neither galaxy has ever managed. We're going to unite them before the threats force us to." Chief allowed himself a slight smile behind his visor. It was ambitious, idealistic, probably impossible. But then, that had never stopped them before. "Spartans are ready, sir. When do we begin?" "We already have, Chief. We already have." Epilogue. The records would show that the Sentinel Foundation became the bridge between 2 galaxies. A neutral ground where UNSC and New Republic, Sangheili and alien species, Force users, and AI-enhanced soldiers found common cause. When the dimensional barriers finally collapsed and the 2 galaxies merged into a single vast cosmos. It was the Sentinel Foundation that kept the peace, that prevented war, that ensured contact became cooperation rather than conflict. But the records couldn't capture the truth. That it was built on sacrifice, on the Spartans who died defending worlds they'd never heard of, on the Jedi who gave themselves to the Force to protect species they'd just met, on the Sangheili who found honor fighting alongside former enemies, on the AIs who burned themselves out so others could live. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 never sought recognition for his role. He continued to fight on the front lines, training new generations, facing threats from both galaxies as they emerged. He became a legend told around campfires on 1,000 worlds. The Spartan who'd fought in 2 galaxies and never backed down. Some said he was more myth than man, that no one could fight for that long without breaking. But those who knew him understood the truth. He wasn't fighting because he enjoyed it, or because he was incapable of anything else. He fought because someone had to, because peace required eternal vigilance, because the moment you stopped preparing for the worst was the moment it arrived. And in a universe where 2 galaxies worth of nightmares could emerge at any moment, humanity needed its demons, its Spartans, its impossible warriors who stood between civilization and the void. The Master Chief stood on the observation deck of Forward Base Dawn, looking out at a sky filled with stars from 2 galaxies. Behind him, Blue Team prepared for another mission, because there was always another mission. Beside him, Ezra Bridger meditated. His connection to the Force now expanded to encompass concepts from Forerunner philosophy and UNSC tactical doctrine. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" Ezra asked without opening his eyes. "No," Chief replied. I just prepare for it. That's the difference between you and me. I try to see the future. You just make sure there is one. Chief didn't respond. He simply checked his rifle, sealed his helmet, and walked toward the hangar bay where a Pelican waited. Another threat had emerged on the frontier. Another impossible situation that required impossible soldiers. The work was never done. The battles were never finished. But that was fine. Because Spartans never died. They were just missing in action. And the Master Chief had no intention of stopping now. The collision of the UNSC Infinity with the Star Wars galaxy was more than a dimensional accident. It was the catalyst for unprecedented change. Master Chief and the Spartans proved that warriors forged in one galaxy's crucible could become legends in another. They faced the Empire, destroyed a Death Star, defeated the Grysk invasion, and eliminated the Devourer's corrupted halo through sheer determination and adaptability. But their greatest achievement wasn't victory in battle. It was the foundation they built afterward. The Sentinel Foundation became the model for intergalactic cooperation, proving that soldiers from different realities could unite against common threats. When the dimensional barriers finally collapsed and two galaxies worth of civilizations made contact, it was the principles established by Chief, Lasky, and their allies that prevented catastrophic war. The price was steep. Hundreds of Spartans, thousands of soldiers, 2 AIs, and countless warriors from a dozen species. But they bought something priceless, a future where both galaxies could face whatever came next together. The Infinity became more than a ship. It became a symbol. The Spartans became more than soldiers. They became guardians of 2 realities. And Master Chief became something even he never expected. Not just humanity's greatest weapon, but the bridge between worlds. The warrior who proved that even in the darkest times, hope survived through those willing to pay its price. The war for 2 galaxies was over. But the Master Chief's fight, his eternal vigil, continued. Because some threats never end. They just wait for warriors to lower their guard. And Spartans never lowered their guard.